Good morning, gentlemen. It is Monday, June the 24th, 2019. Week 12 in the Bigs has come and gone. It was a very, very interesting week. A lot of blowouts, a lot of teams moving around, a lot of people staking their claim to be in this race. It's been a crazy week, and let's take a look at it. With me once again this week, Benny LeBenz, Benjamin Aloysius Nisman. How are you, sir?
Hello, Joseph. I'm doing well. Good to be back. Second half is on the way, and we got a trade to go over. We got a lot to do. An incredible way to start the second half. Take it away, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's jump right into it. It was the premier matchup this week as I took on James McCloskey, the 1 and the 3 seed, going at it. James had won 2 of his last 4 coming in. I had won 3 of my last 4. And, you know, James and I had talked before this matchup started. We knew it was going to be close. He had told me he was going to pull back the reins on streaming pitchers this week because he kind of figured I was going to throw as many things as I could at him. And he said, "You know what would be best for both of us if we just tied?" And I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll take a tie." And here we are, tying 10-10. There was nothing really close though. It was James winning by an RBI and us tying in runs. For James this week, he went 6 for 26 on his bench. That's 231 batting average. 8 runs, 4 doubles, a homer, 2 RBIs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, and 2 errors. The one thing he did do, and he did stream this early, was stream Tyler Skaggs, who was really good for him. He went 7 1/3 with a win, a homer, 6 strikeouts, a 1.23 ERA, and an 0.41 whip. I countered that same day with Brett Anderson against Baltimore, 7 innings, a win, a homer, 2 strikeouts, a walk, 1 earned. That's a 1.29 ERA and an 0.71 whip. As far as the rest of his lineup, the one thing that he did do that pissed me right off was he was at work, and we've had a couple of IT issues going on at work lately, and it's been kind of a nightmare. So for him to be at work on Sunday with all of this going on, he wasn't really able to pay attention to his team the way he wanted to. He missed getting a catcher into his lineup, and he also missed moving Hunter Renfroe to left field, which would have put Johnny VR as his utility guy. He got locked into Renfroe as his utility, so he was open in left field. Well, he went out to the waiver wire and picked up Chad Pinder, and all Pinder did was go 3 for 4 with a run and a double, and it really gave him an opportunity to come back in a couple of categories, which really pissed. It won him on base percentage, if I'm brutally honest. For me this week, I went 6 for 23 on my bench. That's a 261 average, 2 doubles, an RBI, and 10 strikeouts. Really solid week for me on the bench. I left basically nothing there. Got everything I possibly could out of this team. Anything you noticed, Benny?
Well, like you said, Chad Pinder on Sunday wins him RBIs. He takes that category by 1 stat. That's incredible. You know, the other thing that I noticed is that there was a trade that occurred between the two of you. Mm-hmm. Not maybe, what was it, a week ago, 2 weeks ago?
It was just last week.
So, right. So to see how those players were going to do against you, you know, and how now yours were going to do against them, mm-hmm. That's something that I noticed. Just now, as a result, when you throw him the 2 closers, mm-hmm. and he wins that category. So that was something interesting for me, whereas in some of the pitching ones, you were steady. You know, you win that ERA, you had a nice ERA. You know, 3.8, you're typically able to beat a lot of fantasy teams, Joe, with a 3.8, because a lot of us get hungry for the innings. Mm-hmm. We get hungry for the win and the strikeouts, and by Thursday, our ERA is garbage. Mm-hmm. But you over 87 in a 2/3 inning to keep it at 3.8. That's excellent. You know, so some of those guys, Charlie Morton, Ken Maeda, they're doing it for you. And this was a great competitive matchup, you know, all around. It seemed like you guys were kind of just going back and forth, taking the lead throughout the week. And at the end, it's funny, it's just another tie for you. And also, how about Stanton, you know, grabbing you 2 runs?
Yeah,
that was helpful. Or you don't tie that category if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Stanton was big for me. I'm just waiting for him to go off. You know it's coming. You know he's going to have a week where he hits like 5 homers and drives in 12 runs. Like, that's just going to come. You hit it on the head with Charlie Morton and a couple of my other pitchers. You know, by the time I'd say Friday was up, I had a choice of benching all of my guys on Sunday, which would have been Maeda and Verlander. I ended up just going with Verlander because I wanted to put the hammer down on ERA and WHIP. He did give me a decent start on Sunday. 7 innings, looks like 3 earned runs. But the problem was he once again gave up a home run, and that was the one thing that I really didn't want him to do, because James had the luxury of either starting or benching Tyler Skaggs on Sunday, and he ended up benching him, and Skaggs did really well and probably would have won him ERA and or WHIP. It looks a lot further away than it should, because he did get Hansel Robles to come in late Sunday evening, who went a third of an inning and gave up a run and like probably 3 hits. So it looks uglier than it should. Key players this week for James, it was CJ Cron. CJ Cron went .355 average, .429 on base percentage, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 2 runs, a double, 3 walks, and a strikeout. CJ Cron has been really good for him. With all of these injuries in his outfield, he's had the luxury of playing Bellinger in center field and not having to, play Bellinger at first every day and find another outfielder. His outfield is ridiculous and only going to continue to get healthier as Buxton and Gallo make their way back. It's going to be interesting to see what he does, like when Gallo comes back, because one of Cron, Conforto, Renfroe need to take a seat to him. But we'll see what happens going forward. Jose Ramirez finally looks like he's figuring it out and waking up. Of course, he has his best week of the season against me. 286 average, 310 on base, 5 runs, a double, a triple, a homer, 5 RBIs, 2 steals, a walk, and a strikeout. The big thing is only 1 strikeout for the week. Ramirez has definitely been a disappointment, if we're being honest. He's probably been the bust of the first round this year. But he's hit safely in 9 of his last 10 games. And he's starting to put together, extra base hits. He's got a couple of doubles in there. He's got the triple. He's got a homer in there. He's starting to put these things together, and he's still stealing bases at a really good rate. He's got 18 on the season. So this is one of those guys that James really bought low on in the trade with Frank. And if he could turn it around and have a decent second half, that's going to be a catalyst for James's team going forward. Finally, Cody Bellinger, I mentioned him earlier. He hit 292 with a 370 on base, 7 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 3 RBIs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Pitching-wise for James, it's the 2 closers that he bought from me, Shane Green and Hansel Robles. Each got him a save. 4 relief appearances combined. 3 1/3 innings. They had solid ERAs. The last appearance on Sunday, notwithstanding, from Robles. These guys are going to be the anchors of his bullpen. Taylor Rogers also got him a save for what that's worth. But these guys are going to be the guys that James believes in going forward, and hopefully, he's able to utilize them as long as humanly possible, so long as these teams don't trade them away or their performance ends up with them getting demoted. Also, Hyun-Jin Ryu once again gives him a good start. 6 innings, 1 earned, 5 strikeouts, and a walk. My team, it was my outfield this week that really carried me. Juan Soto has been fantastic in the month of June. This week, it's 476 average, a 520 on base percentage, 4 runs, 2 doubles, 2 triples, a homer, 7 RBIs, 2 steals, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts. The guy's been on fire. Oscar Mercado, who I picked up, I think it was late last week on waivers. Looks like Andy dropped him just before our Verlander trade, which we'll talk about in a minute. Oscar Mercado for the week, 313, 389 on base, 5 runs, a triple, a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. And finally, Eloy Jimenez, who has been cold to start the season, is finally heating up as the weather gets warmer. 294 average, 381 on base, a homer and 4 RBIs, 4 runs scored, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Pitching-wise for me, Charlie Morton gave me a good start. 6 1/3, 6 strikeouts, a homer, 2 walks, a 1.42 ERA, and 0.95 WHIP. He was kind of the prized pitcher in the deal I did with James last week. He's had a tremendous first half with a 2.31 ERA and 113 strikeouts over 93 innings. Jose Barrios has been fantastic for me this season as well. He went 15 innings over 2 starts, an 0-1 record. He lost 2-0 to Boston, and his team won 5-3 to Kansas City, but they won that game late. He had 13 strikeouts over the 15 innings, only 3 walks, a 1.80 ERA, and an 0.87 WHIP. And finally, the streamer I took this week was Wade LeBlanc. 6 1/3 innings, a win, 7 strikeouts with a relief appearance because he came in after an opener. So I got the relief appearance. I got 6 1/3 innings of shutout ball with 7 strikeouts and a win. I could not ask for much more from Wade LeBlanc there. Benny, anything on our key players, or should we jump to the trade that went down?
No, we should definitely talk more about this matchup. So we're talking about runs being tied and RBIs you missed by 1.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, I'd want to know Juan Soto, if you don't have this guy, you lose runs and you lose batting average. The guy had 7 RBIs and you still lose by 1. So, I mean, what else could that guy have done to help you out? But I want to know, is there something that was missed along the way, or you could say like, there was that in free agency I was thinking about, and if you do that, maybe you grab the runs category, maybe you grab runs batted in, because everything else, I mean, you bat 266, that's pretty solid, it wins you that category, but I'm wondering how you could have grabbed those other stats here and there.
I only left 1 RBI on the bench this week. It was an Oscar Mercado RBI on Saturday. He was up against Spencer Turnbull, so I felt like he needed to be on the bench. As it turned out, 2 of my outfielders went over 4 in Eloy and Tommy Pham. One was in Texas, the other one was in Oakland. I felt like those were better matchups, though. Otherwise, I mean, offensively, man, I don't need to go to the waiver wire all that much. I lost Jorge Alfaro this week to a concussion, so I had to grab catchers. But I've got Brian McCann on the roster now. I took Pedro Severino, who gave me an RBI on Saturday. Otherwise, if I'm brutally honest, no, I don't think there was a way I could find that RBI unless I fell into it.
The only thing is that I could see that you wouldn't do normally. Somebody might. They would say, this guy has been terrible for a whole week, and he's supposed to be the star of the team, but he's done almost nothing. And we could talk about the cold players on your team. That was Jose Abreu,
yes,
who finally did nothing. He batted 143 for the week. He only got a single run. He didn't do anything else. Not an extra base hit, no RBI, no walk, 3 strikeouts. And that was it. And I thought that was a big difference in the week.
Sure.
I think it's a win if this guy picks it up just for the week.
Even one game, he has a decent game with like a double and 2 RBIs, and I win the week going away. Yeah, I completely agree. If he hits a 2-run homer at any point during this week, I win this week by
either 1 more RBI or 1 more run.
Yeah,
would give you the win.
Yeah, absolutely. Of
each.
Yeah.
One or the other.
Yep, and like I said, I only left 1 RBI on the bench as far as a counting stat. I mean, I left 2 doubles there, but that wouldn't have changed anything. Let's jump into this trade, and I want to get your thoughts on that. I sent away Trevor Bauer and Jorge Polanco and got back Justin Verlander and Jose Leclerc.
All right, so Leclerc, time will tell. So far so good with this guy and you. Verlander, he pitches. I don't want to say he pitches a great start for you. And I won't say he pitched a bad start either.
No.
But right in the middle there in that first game. So I expect this guy to be solid for you. I did not expect him to pitch as well as he did against the Yankees. He did. So to to me, is it sustainable for a whole season? Is it? You're taking the risk. I respect that you're taking a risk to get an ace. And obviously, to me, this is a Hall of Famer to be.
Oh yeah,
might
absolutely.
not be to other people, but for me, this guy's a Hall of Famer. A Hall of Famer will be a Hall of Famer whether he's 36 or 32. Right now, I realize he's on the other end of his career, but that does not mean that he can't bulldoze through the second half. And if he does, great trade for you. And you risk a lot by what you moved out. You risked an unbelievable hitter so far in Jorge Polanco. Both teams were taking a risk on this trade, and that's what I respected about it. That it was Andy, and we'll talk more about the trade when we get to that matchup. But as of right now, I'm saying that he did what he had to do at that time to try to get himself a win against Mike Sherman last week. We know what happened. We'll talk about it. But at that given time, to me, it made so much sense to do what he did. He's obtaining something back that'll help by getting Bauer in the loss of Verlander as well as Polanco. It made so much sense to me for him to do it. And for you, it's a risk. It's a risk to get an ace. So far, it's paying off. We'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, when I sent out I've been looking all season to find somebody who either lost a shortstop or has been hurting for a shortstop all season. And when you ended up landing Trey Turner, obviously that window closed. But then I saw Corey Seager hit the DL with this hamstring injury, and I said, "This is my opportunity. If I don't take it now, I'm not going to get it."
Yeah.
And I threw it out to him. I kind of figured I was overpaying just a bit, but I took the risk of Jose Leclerc is pitching a lot better than he was early in the season, and the Rangers could end up moving Sean Kelly to a contender if they fall out of the race, which anything's possible. Either way, I think if they go for it, Leclerc gets the job back because he's pitching better than Kelly. And if they don't go for it, he gets the job back because they ship Kelly off. As far as Verlander, I look at the home runs that he's given up, and I looked at Bauer, and I said they're basically the same guy. The only difference between the two is that Bauer has given up a fuck ton of walks this season. And that's not something I see going away. What I see going away is Verlander's home run rate coming down back to the mean. He's got a 16.7 fly ball to home run ratio. His career average is... Where the hell is it? His career average is 8.9%. So he's almost double his homer to fly ball ratio. Last season it was 11.1. 2017 it was 11.5. 2015 it was 7.5. So yes, it has been going up as he gets older, and that's to be expected. But to see a jump of over 5%, almost 6% home run to fly ball ratio, that's not sustainable. That's going to come down. He's going to do better. His FIP and XFIP are in the 3s. I don't expect him to pitch to this 2.67 that he's been all year. I could see that inflating a little bit more toward 3, but even there, I'm getting a guy who's got who's getting a ton of strikeouts, going to throw me every bit of the innings that Trevor Bauer was for me, and he's on a team that is contending, that is going to give him the run support that Trevor Bauer wasn't getting. So I'm going to get wins, I'm going to get strikeouts, I'm going to have the walks down from Trevor Bauer, the home runs I feel will come down. I felt like if I'm going to overpay, I'm going to overpay for a top 5 pitcher in baseball, and this is the guy I got. With the cherry on top being, if Leclerc gets the closer job, there's a win for me. Jorge Polanco, he could go on to win a batting title. Fantastic. He was a difficult dude to keep in my lineup, and he was blocking a lot of guys on my bench. This gives me a lot more flexibility to move my lineup the way I wanted to do it with the outfielders that I've got now. And let's be honest, Oscar Mercado is a nice replacement for, Michael Conforto, who I lost in the deal with James. To be a solid middle of the flexible outfielder for me. I already had the infield set the way I wanted it all along with Baez, Moncada, and Lindor. at the end of the day, all I need at this point is a backup infielder to spell those guys when they're off. So I think this has set me. I've always said, and I said this to you when I completed the trade, I was like, July 1st is the point at which you should be ready to go to war. And if you're not ready to go to war by July 1st, then you have to have it done by the trade by the All-Star break. Otherwise, the trade deadline comes and it goes, and that brings up the next point we should bring up. We didn't bring it up in the beginning, and actually I skipped over a bunch of stuff, so I'll just save it for the end. We can save for the end there. I love the trade. I love that I've locked down my ace, and I'm ready to go to war once again and look for my third straight title.
For me, Jorge Polanco is more than a guy that you just spell. When you got to put him in for days off, he turned himself into such a regular player, and it's just, for me, Andy got himself such a good deal here. And for you, my biggest concern on the trade is, should you have moved him, or should you have moved Lindor, or should you have moved Moncada? I think you and I could probably agree that Baez will probably sustain these numbers. Now that he's been so good for a year and a half, I think Baez is what he is. But as well as Lindor. I mean, look, all these guys are brilliant, but it's just that Polanco is having a career year. Oh, yeah. And maybe he does excel all these other guys' seasons. Maybe these other guys are third-round picks, and Polanco is a second round. I don't know.
Well, you mentioned Moncada, and I couldn't have moved him after I moved Chapman, because Baez and Moncada are both second and third base eligible. So if I moved Moncada, I would not have a second or third baseman at that point, and I would have two shortstops only. So it just wouldn't work roster construction wise. Once I moved Chapman to James, I was kind of locked in with Baez and Moncada as my second and third baseman, and then you know. So, but James and I tied this week. James stays in first place now 6 weeks in a row. This will be his 7th week in a row. I fall to third because somebody decided to have a monster week, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But let's jump over to the number 2 team, Jimmy Dunlap, JD17, who took on Nick Homan, the Beavers. And it was number 2 versus number 16. Jimmy comes in undefeated in his last 4. Nick had lost 3 of his last 5. And on paper, this looked like a great opportunity, with me and James slugging it out, for Jimmy to get a good win and take over the top spot. And for a period of time this week, he was winning this matchup and looked like he was going to be doing just that. And then Sunday happened, and Nick took it down 13-8. Close categories this week. Jimmy wins by a double, 2 walks, a loss, a save, .01 whip, and a relief appearance. Nick wins by a stolen base and 2 innings pitched. They did not tie in anything. For Nick, who won the week, he went 3 for 6 on his bench with a run, 2 RBIs, a strikeout, and an error. Not much else you can ask for. The only thing that is interesting, that didn't even cost anything. Gio Urshela on Wednesday went 1 for 3 with an RBI, and Miguel Sano went 0 for 3 at third base. Nitpicking. You're nitpicking at that point. As far as roster moves is concerned, nothing really to write home about. He picked up Jake Marisnik. He then dropped him for Jacoby Jones. He streamed Daniel Norris, who was fairly serviceable. Nothing really to write home about there. His team performed the way he anticipated. For Jimmy, he went 7 for 36 on his bench. That's a 194 average. 7 runs, 2 RBIs, a steal, 5 walks, and 8 strikeouts. The steal is what hurt him here. He did lose steals by 1. It was David Fletcher on Wednesday, went 1 for 4 with a run and a steal on the bench. And Max Muncy didn't play at second base. Now, I figure that Muncy, being on the Dodgers, was playing on the West Coast. The game was late. Fletcher, I think they were playing somewhere more toward the East Coast, and he was unable to get him in because of timing. But the other thing that stuck out, and you mentioned, I'm sure you're gonna highlight it. On Thursday, he benched 8 innings and 1 earned run for Mike Minor.
Yeah, what does it do?
Let me jump on this, and I'll let you know.
We know innings. We know innings, and probably ERA is my guess. What it does. The thing is that it happened on Thursday. Mm-hmm. It didn't happen on Saturday or Sunday. And when it happens early in the week, you can think about managing accordingly thereafter. And maybe because of the big Mike Minor start, Jimmy makes other moves accordingly, and he wins some other stats. But as far as on the surface of what we can see, it would have flipped at least 2 stats, and that would have made this loss a lot more manageable for Jimmy, because right now, like you said, he's right in the middle of the hunt here, and he's been having an unbelievable rookie season, and he's trying to cement himself in a playoff spot, and what he just did is let everyone back in. Because when you have a lead like the lead that he has, you got to fatten up against a team that's bad, and that's not what happened.
Yeah, he was up 11-5 at the time, and then so he was up 11-5 on Wednesday. By the time Friday came, he was down 10-7, and he missed out on this Mike Minor start. At the end of the week, it would have flipped innings. It very well could have flipped ERA, and probably it gets strikeouts close. So by the end of the week, they're jockeying for strikeouts as it is.
Yeah, maybe he goes for it for strikeouts later on in the week. Does that happen? Right?
Yeah, absolutely. His moves this week, nothing to write home about. He was chasing relief appearances, which he won late in the week. Not anything to write home about. Key players this week for Nick, it was DJ LeMahieu. Man, he had himself a week. 435 average, 519 on base, 3 homers, 10 RBIs, 10 runs scored, a triple, a steal, 4 walks, 3 strikeouts. I think DJ LeMahieu may have single-handedly won him runs and triples and steals, obviously, and RBIs. Like, this guy went off this week, and he's been doing really well for the Yankees, who have been incredibly banged up. Like, they found themselves a hero in this guy. And they were trying to go after Manny Machado in the offseason, so this is a huge get for them. Elvis Andrus also did well. 310 average, 333 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, a homer, 4 RBIs, 2 steals, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. And Yasiel Puig is finally turning things around after an absolutely cold first, 3 months of the season? 320 average, 393 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, 2 steals, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. His offense definitely came to play this week. He won the majority of the offensive categories. And in a minute, I'll get to what happened on Sunday, and he flipped 2 categories and won a third. So I'll get to that in a second. Pitching-wise for Nick, it's going to be Jake DeGrom. 14 and a third, a win, 19 strikeouts, a 2.51 and an 0.91 whip. The starts were at Atlanta and at Chicago. The better start was in Atlanta. Actually, the better start was in Chicago on the no decision. 9 strikeouts over 6 innings. In Atlanta, he went 8 and a third. You really wanted him to get that complete game, but he ended up giving up 2 homers. Got 10 strikeouts over the 8 and a third. Also, it'll be Marcus Stroman, who he just traded off. 13 innings, a 1-1 record, 2 homers, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, a 2.08 ERA, and 0.85 whip. Those starts were at home against the Angels and in Boston. Looks like Boston was the better start. 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, and a walk. All shutout innings. Finally, Shane Bieber, 6 innings, 8 strikeouts. Nothing. Looks like only 2 earned runs. But he did take the loss as the team lost 4-2 in Texas. For Jimmy, it's Shin-Soo Choo. Man, you highlighted him a couple of weeks ago, and he's just been really a constant pain in the ass to any of Jimmy's opponents this year. This
pain in the ass to all pitchers in the major leagues right now. Unbelievable getting on base.
Yeah, this week was no different. 333 average, 419 on base percentage, 2 runs, 3 doubles, 2 RBIs, 2 steals, 4 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Gary Sanchez has been a monster at the plate. 375 average, 360 on base percentage, no walks, so he probably had a sacrifice somewhere in there. 4 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, and 7 strikeouts on the week. And finally, Tim Anderson, who was insanely hot to start the year, and I don't know if he's cooled off as much as he has, but he put up a good week this week. 364 average, no walks, so the same on base percentage. 3 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs, and 4 strikeouts with an error. Pitching-wise for Jimmy, Lance Lynn gave him 2 great starts, 14 innings, 15 strikeouts, a walk, and 2 homers. It's a 3.86 ERA and an 0.93 WHIP. The starts were both at home against Cleveland and Chicago, both 7 innings, both a win, both giving up 1 home run, 9 strikeouts against Cleveland, 6 strikeouts against Chicago with a walk. He also had Liam Hendriks, who now appears to be taking over as the closer in Oakland with Blake Trinan going down. We'll talk about him when we get to Ben's matchup. But he did get a save for him, which is pretty huge considering that he won saves by 1. And the save came on the 22nd, which would have been Saturday. It definitely put him over the top, gave him the saves category there. And finally, AJ Minter, who gave him 4 relief appearances, mostly clean, 4 walks you don't like to see, but 2 strikeouts over 3 innings and 2 wins. So he won him the wins category, and he won him the relief appearances category. Should I jump to Sunday, or anything you want to add in there?
I have a lot to add. Firstly, I don't want to take anything away from what Nick did here. Nick had a win. He had a big win, and it's helpful for him as he tries to climb his way back with 10 weeks to go. I mean, it's looking bleak, but anything is possible until you're mathematically eliminated. He just made a trade, so we'll see what happens. I'm not trying to take anything away, but this could have been so much worse for Jimmy. To win losses by 1, to win relief appearances by 1, to win doubles by 1, to win whip by 1/100th of a point, Joe. Whip was 1.25 to 1.26. I mean, if the Dodgers lineup comes out in time that he's able to get David Fletcher in against Toronto, that's where it was on the East Coast, then he gets the steals tied also.
Yeah.
He wins by 2 walks. I mean, all these categories that Jimmy was able to salvage here and grab 8 wins in this matchup is, to me, still huge. Losing is huge. It's big that he lost to a guy that's towards the bottom of the standings.
Yes.
But what's also big is that he was able to chip away and get some of these other stats, winning relief appearances by 1, winning whip the way he did while still benching Mike Minor, and we know how critical it was.
Yep.
This could have been such a big win for Nick. He probably could have gotten 16 or 17 stats possibly if managed differently, picking up certain free agents throughout the week. It's possible that he grabs another couple of stats. So, yeah, go to Sunday, but I'm just saying that this is amazing what happened in this matchup. Very overlooked and very underrated.
Yeah.
What happened in this matchup could be huge going forward.
Absolutely. The win from Nick here bumps Jimmy down to 4th with the big win that we'll talk about in a minute. Sunday they came in to that day, and Nick was up 11-8, and he was able to extend this lead to 13-8. And here's how he did it. On Sunday, Nick hit .387 with a .472 on base percentage, 7 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 3 homers, 7 RBIs, a steal, 5 walks, and 7 strikeouts, where Jimmy went .265 with a .342 on base, 2 runs, 2 doubles, 3 RBIs, 4 walks, 8 strikeouts, and an error. Nick ends up flipping runs because he wins that category by 4, and he got 5 more than Jimmy there. He ends up winning batting average because he hit so much better, and he only won it by 13 points. And he takes down steals with the 1 steal on Sunday. Pitching-wise, Nick goes 20 1/3 with a 1-1 record, a homer, a walk, 23 strikeouts, and a 3.60 ERA with a 1.20 WHIP and a relief appearance. Jimmy counters with
23 strikeouts.
23 strikeouts. Jimmy counters with 8 innings, a 1-1 record, a save, a homer, a walk, 9 strikeouts, a 5.62 ERA, and a 1.12 WHIP with 3 relief appearances. Jimmy maintains his wins and his losses by going 1-1 and takes relief appearances with those 3. But Nick turns innings, strikeouts, and ERA. Just an amazing Sunday to see all of those things flipping and turning. And at the end of the day, Nick actually extends his lead to win it by 5. Fantastic matchup, fantastic managing by both these guys. It was fun to see that. We're going to move on, and we'll move on to Mike Haber, Teoscar named Desire, taking on Jason Ashby, Witness Protection. Number 4 versus number 6 coming into this week. And, you know, Mike is kind of scuttled lately against some really good teams. He ends up doing that again this week. He takes a 13-7 loss to Jason. Close categories this week. Mike wins by a triple, an error. I'm sorry, Mike wins by a triple, an error, and a save. Jason wins by 2 strikeouts. 2 stolen bases. I'm all fucked up. And finally, they tied in walks given up by a pitcher. For Jason, who won the week, he went 13 for 52 on his bench. That's a 250 average. 10 runs, a triple, 4 homers, 9 RBIs, a steal, 8 walks, and 12 strikeouts. The big thing was the triple on the bench. It was from Victor Robles on Friday. Everyone in his lineup hit, though. Top to bottom, everybody got a hit. So it's hard to get in a guy like Victor Robles, who, let's be honest, has not been what you paid for this year. You know, he didn't pay a whole lot. He paid an 11th round pick for the guy. But he's only hitting 242. He's got 11 homers and 9 steals. He's probably going to end up being close to a 2020 guy when all things are done with. But the triple was huge because that would have tied that category for him. He also left a steal on the bench. That doesn't really matter. He ended up winning RBIs, so all of that is sort of by the wayside. The thing that surprised me was that he dropped a couple of young pitchers late this week in Griffin Canning and Zach Gallen. Now, those kids came into the season, fairly unknowns, but by the time they hit the majors, they were pretty top prospects and hype guys. And he did get a good start out of Gallen this week, but ended up dropping him after that start, and I'm pretty surprised. I'd love to know why. Otherwise, it was a solid week for him. He managed it well, and we'll move on to Mike's team, who went 21 for 94 on the bench. That's a 223 average, 10 runs, a double, 4 homers, 12 RBIs, 2 walks, 23 strikeouts, and an error. A couple of things you look at. His outfield is really where it hurt him this week. Dexter Fowler had a 3-run homer on Monday with Chris Davis 0 for 4. Jock Peterson on Tuesday homered on his bench, and Aaron Hicks went 0 for 4. And Randall Grichuk on Friday went 3 for 4 with what looks like a 3-run homer on his bench, and Jordan Alvarez went 0 for 4. He gets those 3 into his lineup. It's a bit closer, but at the end of the day, Jason's team hit 19 fucking homers this week, so he wasn't getting all that close.
So true. I don't know how you're going to stop this team with a 317 average. Besides all of the slugging it did, that it batted 317. Fact of the matter is, Mike Haber had 23 walks, okay? He had 23 walks. He won that category by 6. And he still didn't have a shot at on-base percentage.
Wasn't even close.
With Jason's 367 to 322. 367 isn't amazing, but it is tough to beat. And 317 average is probably only beatable by 1 or 2 opponents for the entire league for this week. So forget it. No one's getting 19 home runs this week. So just too much for Mike. I'm wondering right now, is he pushing the panic button? Mike Haber, one of the best managers right now, and the fact that for me is that he's good. I have nothing to be concerned about when it comes to Mike. I think he'll get this all straightened out after the next 10 weeks. But you know as much as I have that he's been sliding lately.
Yeah, absolutely. He's lost 4 of his last 5, and the one was a tie, so he's winless in his last 5 weeks. They're not terrible losses, though, right? Like, it was 9-10, it was 8-12, it was 9-11, now this one's 13-7. He's got another he's got 3 great managers coming up on his schedule in Ari, Mike Sherman, and Uncle Barry. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there. The rest of his schedule is not particularly difficult as far as standings is concerned. He's got basically the bottom half of the standings to go. So he's got every opportunity to make this happen. I certainly hope he doesn't push the panic button and start doing something drastic, but you never know in this league. People do crazy things. I just don't see that being what Mike is going to do. Mike's not that kind of manager. He's a rational guy. I don't foresee him, say, going absolutely nuts and sending, I don't know, Mookie Betts out for something, or trading off, one of his 3 or 4 big pitchers. Key players this week. For Jason, who won the week, it was Danny Santana. 350 average, 381 on base, 5 runs, a double, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, 2 steals, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. There was also Wilson Contreras, who absolutely lit the fuck up on Lucas Giolito this week. 364 average, 417 on base, 2 runs, a double, 2 homers, both off Lucas Giolito, 5 RBIs, all off Lucas Giolito, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. Contreras hit a grand slam in the first inning of that game and then followed it up with a solo shot in the third. He did all of his slugging damage in 3 innings for the week, off of one pitcher who's been lights out this year. And finally, it'll be Whit Merrifield for him. Merrifield hit 300 with a 333 on base, 7 runs, 2 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. That doesn't include the 3 homers from Justin Upton. That doesn't include the 2 homers from Eric Sogard. That doesn't include the 2 homers from Lourdes Gurriel. Like we said, this team hit 19 home runs. This team hit 317. His offense came to play this week. Pitching-wise for Jason, Max Scherzer is of course going to have a great week. This was the black eye game, 7 innings, a win, 10 strikeouts, 2 walks, an 0.86 whip, nothing earned. Jordan Yamamoto has been a nice find for him as well, 7 innings, a win, 7 strikeouts, nothing earned, 0.57 whip with 2 walks. And finally, Aaron Civale? I didn't know this dude was a human. 6 innings, a win, 6 strikeouts, 3 walks, nothing earned, 0.83 whip. That start was at home against Detroit. Jason is finding these guys and just plugging them in very well.
Incredible.
Like I said, Griffin Canning, Zach Gallen, Framber Valdez, Jordan Yamamoto, this kid Civale. Like, he's finding these guys and just plugging them in, and it's working.
Yeah. No, his intuition's been terrific. His offense continues to get better and better. He keeps pushing random buttons, and they keep working. I don't know what to say. Eric Sogard is blowing me away. With a 305 average? Mm-hmm. Eric Sogard?
Yeah.
Eric Sogard.
This dude was bagging groceries a couple of months ago. Yeah, he was a nobody. And
Eric Sogard is a pedestrian off the bench for defense late in the game to spell a guy on a day off. It's a giveaway Sunday game when everyone's fit. That's when you play Eric Sogard. This guy has played himself into a must-play every day.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
He's a career 245 hitter. He's hitting 305. He's a career 335 slugger. He's slugging 505 this year.
Yeah, I just saw him hit a home run that he just tattooed. It just felt like he knew what he was doing at the plate. I don't know if this is just another player, what he's done with his swing. I don't know anything about that. All I know is that he's having a career year, mm-hmm. and he might just tail off next year as he reaches age 34 at the middle of May next year. But this guy right now must play him every day, and it's tough because you wonder, shouldn't this guy be cold at some point? This guy is going to get cold. He's going to get exposed to certain types of pitchers, but not yet. So it's just unbelievable what Jason is doing in general. how the Wilson Contreras, arguably one of the MVPs of the bigs, and he's just, because he's a catching position, the best catcher in baseball, he has really helped Jason stay up in the standings. It's an offense that continues to get better. It's a pitching that's continued to be steady. I didn't expect this type of offense from these types of players, but they're giving him the production he needs. It's incredible, and I got to give him a lot of credit.
Yeah, and you go back to his pitching, the one guy we're forgetting here is probably the breakout pitcher of the first 2 months was Tyler Glasnow. Who went down with that elbow injury. If he doesn't lose him, this pitching staff is even better. And he just picked up Sean Manaea, who's on his way back too. Let's not forget how good that guy was last year. This could be a scary team coming down the stretch here.
Yeah, the story for this team, when I talk Jason Ashby's team, has been the pitching. 10-2 in innings pitched, 10-1 in 1 wins, 8-3 in losses, 9-3 in strikeouts, 9-3 in ERA, 10-2 in WHIP.
Yeah.
Just listen to those numbers, and it'll tell the story for Jason this season.
And to think, there was maybe a month, 6 weeks ago, he was hitting the panic button and was debating trading away Max Scherzer.
Right.
Absolutely amazing comeback from him. For Mike this week, his key players this week, it was Mookie Betts, 269 average, 406 on base percentage, 7 runs, 2 triples, a homer, 2 RBIs, 2 steals, 6 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Cesar Hernandez has been really good for him, 435 average, 458 on base, 4 runs, 2 doubles, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. Finally, James McCann, a surprising catching option there, 417 average, 588 on base, 2 runs, a homer, 2 RBIs, 4 walks, 6 strikeouts, and an error. Pitching-wise, is Will Smith the most pain-in-the-ass guy to face lately, or is it just me? 2 2/3, 3 relief appearances, 2 more saves, and they were clean innings with 5 strikeouts. I said when I faced him a couple of weeks ago that if it wasn't for Will Smith saving 4 games that the Giants win, he doesn't win that category. And here he is again on Mike's team, getting him the win in saves 3-2. Aaron Nola gave him a good week as well. Bear with me one moment. I just lost my spot here. There we go. 8 innings. He did take the loss. Gave up a homer, a walk, 10 strikeouts. It was the only earned run, though, was that homer. His team lost 2-1, and that's incredibly frustrating. I guess the other run was unearned, but a 1.13 and an 0.88 whip, you'll take that every time out. Finally, Mike Soroka, who might be another breakout first-half candidate. 8 innings, a win, a homer, a walk, 3 strikeouts. It was a 3.38 ERA with a 1 whip. It was 2 starts, 6 innings against the Mets with a win, and then he started the game against Washington, and looks like he was pulled for... he was hit by a pitch and on his forearm.
It looked ugly, too. Yeah. It really looked ugly.
Yeah, that would be absolutely devastating to lose that guy, because that's really been, arguably his best pitcher this year.
100%. No, it's gotten him through the season, because Mike's pitching, basically, as good, his offense has really kept him in it, and it's been Mike Soroka and Will Smith, and that's about it for the season. I mean, his pitching statistics against this league are basically 500. So to lose this guy right now, as Mike's team has been sliding, I'm concerned. It's Mike Haber, so I'll never, ever, ever count out this manager. No. I feel like he'll always try to figure out a way to make shift and pull it together, but this would be a troubling loss if he's out for significant time.
Yeah, and let's be honest, if the playoffs were to start right now, Mike Haber would be in. He'd be in 6th place right now. So even with this slide, he's staying in contention and staying in the playoff race. That does bring up a point. Guys, there's 8 teams within 20 games of each other. This is... Benny, I challenge you to find a more competitive season than this year. We don't have somebody running away and hiding,
No, first place is very gettable from 9th place. It's absolutely true. This is a very competitive, and a lot of guys keep flipping their seasons around from being down in the gutter, and then all of a sudden at 500, all of a sudden over 500, then some of them go back under 500, and it's amazing how the competitive nature of each guy to try to change their season. We'll get to one of those managers later who took an 18-0 loss in week 2 and is still rolling right now. But yeah, as of right now, Mike, you're concerned based on the record, but like you said, if he's still in 6th place, I would not want to play Mike Haver's team that's due for a big win right now.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly glad my week with him is not anytime soon. In fact, it just passed with my 11-9 win. Let's move on. And Benny, this is your matchup. This is your time to shine. You came into this week undefeated in your last 9, and guess what? You continue it to 10 as you push Frank Bucco's winless streak to 10 as well with a dominating 18-4 win. The only thing that was close is you won by a win and a complete game. Nothing else was close. You didn't tie in anything. This was an absolutely dominating matchup. On your bench this week, 13 for 30. That's a .433 batting average. 6 runs, 5 doubles, a homer, 3 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, and 6 strikeouts. At the end of the day, you might not like the fact that you left 5 doubles on your bench, but you lost by 7 doubles, 8 doubles, and you won 18-4. So take that for what it is. Bunch of roster moves this week. It looks like you were chasing a catcher for a while with Martin Maldonado. Bunch of streamers you threw in there, and you got a little greedy toward week's end, and it cost you ERA. Let's hear your thoughts on your week. What did you see? What did you do? Talk to us.
Okay, so firstly, it seems like some of these stats aren't close, but going into Saturday, anything was touchable. So I had to grind it out. I think my best work that I did, very underappreciated probably, and something it's hard to notice, but it was actually the bullpen pickups that I made. There was a double header between Washington and Philly, and I picked up Guerra, and this guy, Javi Guerra, and then this other guy, Rainey, on Washington Nationals. Those were these 2 relievers that I picked up in a doubleheader, and I'm thinking, at least, I have a feeling at least I'll get 1 relief appearance out of this day. So they both came in just once between those 2 games. So I got 2 there. One of them didn't do so well. The other one did okay. I said I'll keep these 2 guys around for another day. I did so, assuming there's a chance because there's a doubleheader. They didn't throw that many pitches. They might come in. They both did. One of them gets me a win. I say, you know what? I'll hold on to them another day. Why not? Another one comes in another day. So I got about 5 relief appearances in 3 days out of 2 guys and a win. On the same token, I pick up this guy Simber on Cleveland Indians. The day I pick him up on Friday, he gets me the win.
Yep.
He comes in on the day I pick him up, and he gets me a win. And then I leave him on the team Saturday, and he comes in again. He pitches clean. He was perfect. So, to me, those were some of the biggest things. I pick up Kyle Ryan, I believe I did that on Friday, and he goes 1 in the 3rd, and he doesn't give up a run. So I'm just going through it. Simber got me one of these wins also. 2 of my wins, and I win that category by 1. 2 of my wins are from the bullpen.
Yeah, so and you only won wins by 1.
That's right. So those were, to me, the most underlooked thing. The fact that I won that category, didn't tie it, didn't lose it, and those pickups that I made that made relief appearances so comfortable. Of course, I was pretty confident around Thursday, Friday I was winning relief appearances, but I just didn't know about the wins, and I wasn't sure that maybe I could catch strikeouts, maybe I could catch innings pitch. So that's what ended up happening on Sunday. Yeah, so as far as what happened on Sunday, I got greedy. It happens sometimes. You see it in front of you. You think you can win all these categories. You think you did enough from Monday through Thursday that you can take some risks on Sunday. That's what I did. I picked up a couple of starting pitchers. You'll get into it later when we break it down, but the goal was to try to grab the wins, to try to grab strikeouts. Neither of those things happened from those guys. I end up winning wins from the bullpen again. It's Kenley Jansen getting the win in relief for me to win that category. Now, the issue is that I could have just played all the bullpen pitchers and not made a pickup for the innings pitch for the strikeouts by going after starting pitchers. But I went after those probable guys. They pitched like dog shit, and I lose ERA as a result. That is one category now that I look at, and I say throughout this entire week, with all those doubles that I left on the bench, like you mentioned, Joe, there was quite a few runs on the bench that I left. And however, I won that on Sunday as well. I'll get to that as well if we get a chance to break down Sunday. But I will say that it's a heartbreaker that I made all these decisions through the week, like deciding to sit Gibson, and it wasn't easy to sit Gibson against. So for me, doing that and him getting rocked by Boston.
Yep.
And then I'm looking golden in ERA, and then I go at with Wainwright coming off his start against the Marlins. It seemed like a juicy matchup. He's pitching great. Through 5, he's pitching great. He's got 6 strikeouts. He's basically cruising, and his team has runners in scoring position to take the lead. Joe, in the bottom of the 5th, there's men in second, third, and there's 2 outs, and the guy doesn't come through. And I'm thinking, you know what? If they bring Wainwright out for the 6th, I think now is when he gets touched up. That's when it happened. In the 6th inning, he starts to get hit up, and that was my concern. I thought that if they got that lead, because it was a 1-1 game at the time, if they get the lead and now Wainwright's got a shot, well, then maybe he starts to feel comfortable. There are less stress pitches that he has to throw, and then all of a sudden, it looks like a better situation for him. That's not what happened. The Marlins got it together. It looks like a really bad start when we look at the start and we break it down, but he actually pitched pretty decently. It was just a bad 6th inning when he was probably basically out of gas. He was probably a little hurt that the team couldn't get that run for him. So looking at it that way, I'm not so disappointed, but all these little starts added up. Wainwright had a bad start. Then I'm thinking, well, you know what? The Cardinals end up tying that game. They end up winning on a walk-off. I think, they win on a...
the Marlins won on the walk-off.
No, the Marlins win an extra inning.
Yeah.
But the thing is that he didn't lose. And no matter what, Sale pitched terribly, and he didn't get the loss either. So I'm feeling like I can take all these risks and go after some things because I'm not going to lose losses. Well, I lost ERA as a result. That one hurts, but my God, for me to sit Domingo Santana on Saturday, and we'll talk about how Domingo Santana had an unbelievable Saturday, but even still, I managed to collect runs on the last day because I had an unbelievable Sunday. And I will say this, Joe, that I've talked about how I have terrible luck on Sunday. And as I'm driving back to New York and thinking God, can I just get one of those Sundays where I finally pull it together? I really want runs. I made so many mistakes about runs. I'll be fine if I can't get doubles. Come on, let me get the right guys in to get runs. Because if I do that, at least I'll feel good that I didn't make so many bad decisions throughout the week. And I got 9 runs on Sunday. So I will say, and RBIs, that was another one that was pretty darn close. I think it was up by 2 RBIs, and I got 11 RBIs on Sunday. Walks,
put the hammer down.
Close at one point, walks was going back and forth. I said, my guys can only draw walks. That is what they do. I cannot lose walks. They get 6 walks on Sunday and lock up the category. So when all is said and done, I said I've had terrible Sundays. I finally had an amazing offensive Sunday. That's something that I'm thrilled about.
Absolutely. The one thing that I noticed, and it was pretty obvious from the start, your pitching staff came out very early and put the hammer down and said, this is going to be a good week for Ben. Masahiro Tanaka, we'll talk about him a little later on, but he gave you the complete game shutout and put the hammer down. You mentioned a lot about your relievers. The one person that I think let you down this week is Seth Lugo, both as a Met fan and as a fantasy owner. Mickey Callaway has done awful things with the bullpen, and this is another example of that, where 3 1/3 over 2 relief appearances, a loss, a homer, an 8.10 ERA. You mentioned streaming the pitchers. You streamed Gabriele Noah, the Baltimore starter, in Seattle, and the guy just absolutely shit the bed for you. 27 ERA and a 3.43 WHIP. It almost lost your WHIP, and I didn't even realize this until you were talking, but you only won WHIP by 1 point. So that could have been tragic for you as well.
Oh yeah, no, of course. Everything that I took risks, and you know, maybe you'd say this is bad management, but I didn't think I had a prayer that those were in jeopardy. I really think I could have gone for it. I did not think that Noah could have pitched that badly. Mm-hmm. I didn't think Lugo was going to pitch that badly if he came in. That was more Mickey of leaving him in too long, more so for me.
Absolutely.
But as much as they let me down, we can look at every out that they got and every base runner that all these guys didn't, and that's why I won WHIP. So,
absolutely.
As much as I took a risk, I didn't lose the category. I won by 100th of a point. Mm-hmm. That's the second one this week amongst our matchups. That's incredible.
Yep, absolutely. Let's jump to Frank's team. He left 13 for 29 on his bench. That's a 4.48 average. 6 runs, 4 doubles, a homer, 4 RBIs, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, and an error. There were a few things that really stood out. On Tuesday, JD Martinez went 0 for 8 with 5 strikeouts. I think that was a doubleheader. It was either a doubleheader or a really long extra inning game, obviously. Let me take a look. No, it was a really long extra inning game against Minnesota. 0 for 8 with 5 strikeouts. That's a platinum sombrero, boys. His team also pitched to a 6.86 ERA and 6 homers that day. And he texted me and he goes, I don't even know what to do now. Like, I'm buried because you had the Tanaka complete game shutout the day before, and his team goes out and throws a 6.86 with 6 homers. He's like, I'm dead. And I said, just keep playing it out. Anything's possible. You know, throw some stuff against the wall, see what happens. The very next day, he goes 5 for 7 with 3 runs, 2 doubles, a walk, and a strikeout on his bench. That's Austin Riley and Nick Castellanos on his bench. And his entire starting outfield goes 0 for 11. Just ugly, ugly day. Friday, Willie Adames goes 3 for 4 with a homer on the bench, and McMahon goes 0 for 3 at second base. Castellanos has another good day, 2 for 5 with a double and an RBI on the bench. He threw everything he possibly could at the wall. You know, he started Taylor Clark, he started Tyler Chatwood, he started Tanner Anderson, he started Joe Musgrove, he threw Chad Green at you. He did everything he possibly could to try to go after, you know, innings, strikeouts, and somehow got the ERA. I think he was also chasing wins, which he somehow didn't get, and that was really disappointing to see as many innings as he threw, as many starters as he threw, and to only get 3 wins. It's pretty disappointing.
Sure, but you know what he did do is he continued to chase me and make me think that I had a chance at other categories. Mm-hmm. And as a result, he wins the ERA. With all the work that he did eventually win innings and strikeouts. Those were the ones that he wanted to ensure. He was dead because when you do throw a complete game on Monday, you're in the driver's seat.
Absolutely.
And when he pitched as badly as he pitched on Tuesday, he's in the back burner. Uh-huh. And right now, I can do whatever I want. I can select to sit down Gibson, and even if he pitched well, he didn't pitch well, and that looked even more great for me, but even if he pitched well, it wouldn't have mattered because I was so far ahead, and I could cruise right into those 37 innings and not have to do that much work. My bullpen was going to do most of it, and I could always rely on them. So it was tough. Yeah, I also batted pretty well, and he didn't bat so well.
And that's what I was going. I was just about to hit on that.
Had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, I was about to hit on that.
Of course.
Go ahead, Benny.
I was going to say, just like you said, Willie Adames sitting, that's 2 runs that would have gotten him closer. There was 6 runs on the bench, like you mentioned. So there were ways to plug it in there, and that's heartbreaking because of how close those stats were. The offensive stats that Frank could have won, he only really won in doubles as far as I can tell. I'd have to look at the matchup more thoroughly, but I think that's the only offensive category that he beat me in. Yeah, it is.
It is.
So it's heartbreaking that on Saturday and Sunday, he got a chance at RBIs, he got a chance at walks, he got a chance at runs, and he loses All of them.
Yeah.
All of them.
Because your team came to play on the weekend.
What's that?
Your team came to play this weekend, and his didn't. You know, it was a case of he's chasing the gettable stats in pitching and hoping that his offense, which is a fairly decent offense when you look at the names on his team, they just didn't come to play. You know, he only hit 240 this week. He only had 6 homers. Like, that's not going to get it done.
No.
Let's jump to key players this week. For you, Benny, it was Jason Kipnis who had a great week for you. 429 average, 500 on base percentage, 5 runs, a triple, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, 3 walks, and 2 strikeouts. Carlos Santana
and also, can I just throw in there that
Sure.
it is a 1 for 3 with a walk and a run on the bench on top of it.
The start on Saturday?
Yeah, so there's another run, another walk, and another hit on top of everything that he did. He had an unbelievable week.
He did. He had a great week. Carlos Santana just continues to be an unsung, under-the-radar star in the majors, and for lack of a better term, he's been carrying your team quite a bit. 348 average, 500 on base, 7 runs, 3 homers, 5 RBIs, a steal, 7 walks, 3 strikeouts, and an error. I want to take a look very quickly at what his strikeout to walk ratio is on the season at this point. And once again, as expected, Carlos Santana currently has more walks than strikeouts at 56 walks, 52 strikeouts. This is what you drafted this guy for.
That's exactly what I drafted him for. It's the same reason I drafted Jose Ramirez, you know? Mm-hmm. And you said before, he managed only 1 strikeout throughout the entire, when we're talking about Jose Ramirez, not Santana. But these are just guys that are on the same team and have the same goal as to make the pitcher work, keep fouling it off, and you don't have to be the guy. You don't have to. If it's not your pitch, pass the baton to the next guy.
Exactly.
Take your base.
Yep.
They're giving it to you.
Yep.
So this has been this guy's mantra the entire career, that he is going to take his walks, he's going to get on base, and he's not going to give away outs. He's going to get the ball in play. So I give this guy a lot of credit, and thank goodness I've just basically had 1 third baseman my entire season, so this way I'll never make this second guess and be like, you know what, Carlos Santana has to sit today. I'm okay with the days that he has 0 for 4 because I'm just not going to think about it. He plays third base for my team, and that's it. You know?
Absolutely. Finally, Domingo Santana gave you a great week as well. 333, a 407 on base, 4 runs, a double, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, 3 walks, and 11 strikeouts. And this is a guy that
not to mention Saturday on the bench.
2 for 3, 3 runs.
You don't.
Yeah, 2 for 3, 3 runs, a double, a homer, an RBI, and a walk on the bench on Saturday. He came to play this week. This is a guy you traded Steven Matz to Frank for, who has now come back to bite Frank in the ass.
Right, and it could have been worse. And what's the most amazing thing about what we're talking about right now is that, and this is the bigs, and this is baseball, right? That you should play the guy that you trade. You always play the guy that when you're playing against the guy that traded him. You know, so if Frank traded me Domingo Santana, I gotta play him all 7 days, right?
Absolutely.
And one day I don't play him. This is what happens, and it just goes to show. Always do that. You know, always make the guy that made the trade with you feel like they made a mistake. That's what you gotta do. You know, and that's what just happened on Domingo Santana's Saturday. 2 for 3. 3 runs, a double, a home run, and a walk. I needed all those things, and I was killing myself Saturday night. I was so angry that happened. With that, and Jason Kipnis' 1 for 3 with a run and a walk, I needed all those categories. And that's why Sunday is so miraculous, and that's why I'm feeling so good talking to you today, Joe, because even though I took that risk and lost ERA, and we know what happened in the week, for me to win those close offensive categories, when I seem to maybe win 1, tie 1, or whatever, I won all of them, man. And
every single one of them.
It feels good to finally have your team pick you up and me make the right decisions on Sunday, not leave something stupid on my bench, which I could have done, but I picked the right guys on Sunday, and it worked out.
Absolutely. Let's jump to your pitchers. It's obviously Masahiro Tanaka's complete game shutout. He actually gave you 2 great starts this week. 15 innings, a win, the complete game. He gave up 1 homer, 2 walks, 11 strikeouts, a 1.20 ERA, and 0.80 whip. Aroldis Chapman gave you, looks like 3 saves, 2 1/3, 3 relief appearances, 5 strikeouts, nothing earned, and 0.86 whip. And Ian Kennedy continues to be a really unsung hero as well on this team. 3 innings, 3 relief appearances, 2 saves, and 2 strikeouts. We'll jump over to Frank's team key players. Alex Gordon, whom he traded from, he got from Uncle Barry. He hits 300 with a 333 on base, 3 runs, 4 doubles, 6 RBIs, and a strikeout. The 4 doubles is what I want to highlight, obviously, considering that he won. The only offensive category he won was doubles. Ryan McMahon was a nice pickup for him. Looks like a 261 average, 320 on base, 3 runs, 3 doubles, 7 RBIs, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, and an error. He ended up trading him. We'll get to that next. We'll get to that at some point. And Hunter Dozier comes back off the DL, 273 average, 385 on base, a run, a double, a homer, 5 RBIs, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Pitching wise for Frank, we'll go with Merrill Kelly here. Merrill Kelly's the guy who was involved in the J.D. Martinez trade early in the season, whom he dropped 12 hours after the trade went through, and has bounced around the league quite a bit. I think he's been on like 6 different teams, but I think he's finally found the home on Frank's team, maybe? 12 innings, 14 strikeouts. He didn't pitch all that well in the start against Colorado at home, but his start against San Francisco was really good. It was a 5.25 ERA with a 1.17 whip, 14 strikeouts over 12 innings. Zach Plesac, whom he found on the waiver wire, 14 innings, 2 wins, 2 homers, 6 walks, 8 strikeouts, a 1.29 ERA, and 0.93 whip. Both starts went 7 innings in Texas and against Detroit at home. And finally, it'll be Frankie Montas. Now, we'll get to him a little more momentarily. 8 innings, 9 strikeouts, a homer, 1.13 ERA, and 0.50 whip. But that'll be the last time you see Frankie Montas on Frank's team this week, or this year, as we come to find out that Frank's breakout ace pitcher, who's thrown 9 wins to a 2.70 ERA and a 1.12 whip over 90 innings, tested positive for something called Ostarine, which is a performance-enhancing substance, and he's been suspended 80 games from Major League Baseball. Doing the math, the A's have played 76 games. You add 80 to that, that's 156 games. You might not see Frankie Montas again this season. Benny?
I would think that he's also out for the playoffs, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure that no matter what, if you get nailed, you're not eligible to be in the playoffs either. So
that's if Oakland makes it.
Montas this season. Yeah, assuming I don't know whether they will or not. They have a tough road ahead, but they're a good team and they made it last year. So I'd like to think Oakland will be in the race in September, and that guy certainly could have helped them along the way. So tough break for Oakland, tough break for Frank. He's doing what he can to make up for it, but I'll just say right now, and again, Frank, he played me tough. He used all 13 moves. He did what he could. My offense was pretty hot this week.
Yeah.
It just seemed that by Friday, Saturday, when I was benching tough stats, it didn't seem like I could get it wrong. And at that time when I'm trying to make those decisions, I'm thinking to myself, man, all these guys are hot right now. I really don't know what to do. And it just didn't matter. They picked me up. On Sunday, Avisail Garcia, 3 for 4 with a double, an RBI, and a walk on my bench. No strikeouts. As well as Jason Hayward, 3 for 4 the day before, and 3 for 4 on Sunday. I didn't think he was going to do that against DeGrom and company. 3 for 4, a double, an RBI, a run. You know, so 6 for 8 on my bench on Sunday. For myself to still explode for what I played, 9 runs, 11 RBIs, 3 home runs, 6 walks. I couldn't ask for more. I don't know if this is the end of it for me, Joe, because my offense has been somewhat pedestrian. It's a solid offense. It's not a very dangerous offense. It's a beatable offense. It gets on base. It draws walks. Doesn't strike out a ton. It doesn't hit with a lot of power. We know I'm at the bottom, basically, for home runs for the season amongst our league. However, it's consistent, and they're all hot at the same time. I don't know if that goes away soon. I don't know if I'm the team right now that you don't want to face, because now my offense as well as the pitching is good. But right now, I'm feeling really good with the streak that I'm on, and I'm looking for blood, man, because there's 10 weeks left. I got a good shot at the playoffs right now. I got a decent shot at a bye to get into the Final Four. I'm playing a team that could have possibly won in Jimmy Dunlap, or at least made a more serviceable loss. He's coming off a loss right now. I could put him away. Then I got Nick. Then I got James Santangelo. And I can start to fatten up my league, too. I can start to make this a really, really interesting next 7 weeks for myself to try to make myself get some headway and start to go at top of the standings. Right now, second place, plenty of guys next to me. I realize it. But if in the next month, I can fatten up.
Sure.
We might be saying I'm definitely in the playoffs. It might be.
Yeah, and the one thing that we can probably say at this point, Frank's season is probably over.
Looks like it.
Yeah, I mean, he's 40 games under 500. He's 43.5 out of first place, 30.5 out of the sixth place spot. You know, we'll get toward the end of the video here. We'll talk about.
The thing is, like, for 10 wins, right? 10 wins, right, for the 10 weeks, right?
Yeah, it's 9.8 wins per week. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just go. Let's take the next 4 weeks. Let's say he doubles up his opponents on the next 4 weeks, right? So let's say he wins like 10-5, 6-4, whatever it is. He wins by 3, 4, or even 5 a month. The most that he could do is cut from under 40 under 500 to maybe 20 under 500, and then there's 6 weeks to go. So I just don't know how he's going to get to 500 right now.
Exactly.
And I think that's got to be the goal for Frank. Let's try to get to a 500 season.
Exactly.
Like, figure out a way, chip away, just worry about collecting W's, get off this streak that he's on, because now it's, a 10-week winless streak.
Exactly.
So right now, you got to try to just cut it down. Try to, I think you mentioned, stay out of last place.
Yep.
Try to have a nice rookie campaign, something to feel good about for the 2020 season.
Exactly. We were talking about it off air before we got started here. Frank's season is I mean, for all intents and purposes at this point, it's a lost season. He's lost 9 of his last 10 with a tie to Jimmy Dunlap in Week 10. And when I looked at that, it was a JD Martinez fluke triple that tied the score for him. So if not for a JD Martinez, who may not hit a triple again this season, next season, or for the rest of his career, he might not hit another triple. That got him a tie and holds him off from going on an unprecedented. Well, only one other team has ever had a 10 or more game losing streak. And
that has to be Mike Haber 2017.
Yes, and he opened up the first 12 weeks with losses. Let's jump over to the next matchup here. It's going to be Angels in the Trout Field, Bobby Russo taking on, well, I'll be damned, Josh Haber. Both of these teams were kind of struggling coming into this matchup. Bobby had lost 3 of his last 4. Josh lost 6 of his last 8. Bobby gets a big win here, and it was kind of a get-right win for him. 16-5 over Josh. Close categories. Bobby wins by a triple, a win, a home run given up by a pitcher, and .02 whip. Josh won nothing close, and they did not tie in anything. Left on Bobby's bench was 8 for 35. That's a .229 batting average, a run, a double, 4 RBIs, 3 walks, 11 strikeouts. He wasted a move early in the week as he picked up Kevin Smith of the Angels and then dropped him immediately for Austin Barnes. I guess he liked the matchup. Austin Barnes had more. He also streamed a couple of great guys late this week, Dustin Garno and Luis Rengifo, especially late in the game between the Angels and the Cardinals on Sunday night. Nothing really to write home, though. He dominated this matchup from beginning to end, starting off 10-5 on Monday. Going into last night was 13-8, and he wins at 16-5. He seemed to push all the right buttons. He never really had anything on the bench that I could see getting into his lineup any other way. It's a great week for Bobby, and he needed to get right here. For Josh, man, it's more of the same. 20 for 75. That's a 267 average. 8 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 8 walks, 13 strikeouts, and an error. On Monday, he went 4 for 7. Eric Hosmer went 2 for 3 with a run on the bench. Kyle Seager went 2 for 4. Adam Eaton and Bryce Harper got postponed. Brandon Lau was in left field, and Ozuna was in the utility spot. He could have moved somebody in that way. On Tuesday, his entire team hit 130 with 10 strikeouts. Eric Hosmer was still on his bench on Wednesday, went 3 for 5 with a homer. On Friday, it was more of the Yan Gomes, Kurt Suzuki bullshit as Yan Gomes homered. It's just another, pointing the finger at this is as simple as paying attention. And it is what it is. I mean, it's another...
Yeah, it is. It's a difference of a couple of stats. I can say for certain that walks should have been won by Josh. That's hands down. That's number one.
8 walks on his bench and lost it by 2.
Right. And then the doubles, how many doubles on the bench for Josh?
Only 3. It wouldn't have changed it.
Okay, so that wouldn't have changed it. So, all right. So certainly walks, we can say. But to be honest with you, who the heck is taking down a 350 batting average from Bobby and a 425 on base percentage? Okay, those two numbers that I'm pretty positive we haven't seen it. And I looked at that this morning just because Frank, I was talking to him. He's like, maybe I feel a little bit better against Bobby, and I said, well, it depends on which offense you're getting.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to play the offense that Bobby had last week, you're not going to beat Bobby.
Yeah.
But if Bobby's offense all of a sudden just completely goes cold, yeah, you might have a shot. But what's most, besides the fact that it's a 349 average and that it's a 425 on base percentage over 218 at bats, what's impressive is that the amount of stats that he left on the bench, he did a great job.
Yeah.
A pretty good average from Bobby on the bench. That plays a role.
Yeah.
That could have been a worse average. That could have been a worse on-base percentage. But he is sitting so focused on what he's doing on his bench. The Kevin Smith move for me, and I spoke to him about it, was a technology issue. The fact that he didn't lock, he thought that he got him in, it didn't go in, and the game started already. So he was screwed. So he had to get him out of there and try to get somebody in. That was a wasted move. Absolutely, it's a wasted move. But it's not because of a second, like an indecisive. It's something that unfortunately screwed him.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense when you think about it that way. The other thing that I noticed, and you go back to Frank feeling a lot more comfortable about facing Bobby this week. Bobby lost quite a few pitching categories. He pitched to a 2.74 ERA. That does not lose you that category very often.
No, unbelievable. Lost to a better ERA. Somehow Josh pulled out a 2.53 ERA in 42 innings. Very solid from Josh. Very solid from both of the pitching performances from both of these guys this week. But that's a heartbreaker, I'm sure, for Bobby, that you could pitch that well and still lose that category.
Yep.
That's tough for sure. But they were both playing very conservatively, and I do believe they both had about 27 innings only going into Saturday. And then they just try to both chip away, just make the minimum amount of innings, maybe a little bit more. Neither one of these guys were really trying to go for it for innings pitched, as far as what I could see. They were both trying to hold strong with their ERAs and their whips.
Yeah.
Unbelievably, Bobby wins whip here, 1.22 to 1.24. It's just the third matchup here where whip is decided by 1/100th of a point or 2/100th of a point. Unbelievable from both of the pitching staffs here.
Absolutely. Let's jump to key players because this is a hell of a week to highlight here. For Bobby, well, I've been waiting for this week to come, and it's finally come. Mike Trout has one of these weeks where you can put the entire team on his back. 483 average, 559 on base percentage, 7 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 10 RBIs, a steal, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Not that Mike Trout's having a bad season. He's not. He's going to be in the MVP conversation, as he is every year. But this is the type of week you point to and go, holy shit. And when you pair it with Ketel Marte, who hit 706 this week with a run, 2 doubles, a triple, an RBI, a steal, and a strikeout. there's not a whole lot of counting stats there. But this dude went 2 for 4, 3 for 4, 3 for 4, 3 for 5, 4 for 6, and 2 for 2. That's a whole lot of singles. But if you can get 706 from your shortstop, gross.
Yeah, when is this guy going to cool down? A 309 average, 20 dingers, 51 driven in, 51 runs. On pace for well over 100 RBIs and well over 100 runs from a shortstop. Not a big time, not like a beefy, huge shortstop. This is more like a lean, quick guy, you know? And he's just getting a hold of them and just playing a hell of a year. This is a breakout performance.
Absolutely. Now, he did pull his groin, it looks like on Friday, so he missed Saturday and Sunday. But even so, you know, you get that kind of production over 5 days from that guy. You'll take it every day of the week. Finally, for Bobby, it was Lorenzo Cain, Lorenzo Cain is another interesting guy. He is only hitting 253 on the season, but this week he did well for Bobby. 318 average, 423 on base percentage, 4 runs, 1 RBI, 3 steals, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Lorenzo Cain, I thought, coming into the season, after he drafted Mike Trout first overall, and then turned around and got Lorenzo Cain, who's only center field eligible as well, in the 4th round, that I would have seen Bobby trade him by now. And he simply hasn't. He hasn't made a move like that, and it kind of surprises me. Pitching-wise for Bobby, it was Sean Doolittle again, 3 relief appearances, 3 clean innings, 2 saves, and a strikeout, an 0.33 whip. It was Adrian Sampson, who I believe he picked up for this start. Yes, he did. 7 innings, a win, 4 strikeouts, a walk, a 1.29 ERA, a 1.14 whip. And finally, Yanni Chirinos, who's been an unsung, really good, solid number 3 for him this year. 12 innings, an 0-1 record, 3 homers, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, a 3.75 ERA, a 1.17 whip. He had 2 starts this week. One was in New York against the Yankees. He took the loss there and gave up 2 homers. But the other one was in Oakland, and it was a solid start, 6 innings, 3 strikeouts, only 1 home run, and a no decision. Any thought to what I was talking about with the non-existent trade of Lorenzo Cain?
I just wonder right now if Bobby is the type of guy that is going to pull the trigger on a trade. He didn't make one last year when he was in the race. He's back in the race again this year. He's never made a trade in our league before, and I just wonder if maybe he doesn't feel like it's going to work out for him. It's possible that he's afraid to pull the trigger on a move. I know what it feels like. It's never easy for me to let go of a guy, but at the same time, you got to sometimes do it, and sometimes that's the difference. You know from experience that the trades that you've made have won you championships.
Yes.
So in this case, for me, if I was Bobby, I might hold off just a little longer, because right now he's coming off a big win. He's got a decent part of the schedule coming up. He's got to see what he needs still. Maybe he doesn't know what he needs still, and he's still very much in this race. He's very high up in the standings. So right now, I think it's more about if he's not sure if he should make a trade versus who necessarily is going to be traded.
Gotcha. For Josh this week, it's the same usual suspects. It's Freddie Freeman, 375 average, 444 on base, 6 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. It's Josh Donaldson, 438 average, 471 on base, 3 runs, 3 homers, 4 RBIs, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. And finally, it's Marcell Ozuna, 233 average, 258 on base percentage, but I highlight him because he had 3 runs, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. The only thing that Josh won was offensively was homers and RBIs. Marcell Ozuna did well there. If there's one person you can point the finger to and go, man, that was awful, and this is the reason he lost so many offensive categories, it's Asdrubal Cabrera, man. 0.77 average, 111 on base, 15 strikeouts. And if you pair that with Brandon Lau, 174 average, 240 on base, 13 strikeouts. You know, there goes the vast majority of your offense right down the drain.
Right, and it's about time that Brandon Lowe sits, and it's about time that Eric Hosmer gets to have a big season. Right now, Eric Hosmer has basically been on the bench Josh's entire season. It's about time to get Eric Hosmer in there and just make him the utility guy. Make Marcell Ozuna the left fielder and go to war with that at least. You know, give yourself some chance to get out of the basement right now.
Yep.
He's in last place. He's got to find a way to compete over the next 10 weeks. I hope he does. I hope he finds some way to collect some wins and just make it at least a salvageable, respectable season for himself in the second half.
Agreed. Pitching-wise for Josh, Cole Hamels gave him a good start, a pair of good starts actually. 14 innings, 13 strikeouts, a 2.57 ERA, a 1.21 WHIP. They were both at home against the White Sox and the Mets. The better one was against the White Sox. He didn't get a win. He didn't factor in either decision actually, but 8 strikeouts and only 2 walks against the White Sox, whereas it was 5 strikeouts and 2 home runs given up against the Mets. James Paxton also gave him a decent start. 5 innings, a win, 7 strikeouts, a 1.80 ERA, and a 1.60 WHIP. And finally, CC Sabathia, who was his only roster move this week. He streamed CC Sabathia, got 6 innings, 7 strikeouts, and a win. The start was at home against Tampa Bay. I don't know. I'm very, very concerned that Josh is going to miss his innings limit at some point this season because I think he's bottom of the barrel as far as innings pitched for the season. And it seems like every week he's going into Sunday needing to throw a pitcher in order to get there.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. He picks up a pitcher. If he sees that it's sliding, I noticed he picked up CC Sabathia. He'll go tonight for him. So you figure if all things considered that CC's okay, CC should make 2 starts this week.
Right.
And as long as he has 1 starter going on Tuesday, that means that guy might go on Sunday as well. So as far as this week goes, it seems like Josh is okay. Maybe he gets Kyle Hendricks back by then, and then he's good to go. But right now, yeah, I can see what you're saying. It seems like he's just barely making the minimum. And as a result, he's winning home runs given up and walks given up on a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. But, that's not to mention that he didn't win either of those this week. He lost by 1 home run given up, and he lost by 5 walks.
Yep. And
he still threw less innings by 4 than Bobby. So it's just, right now, to me, you're right. He's going just barely over the minimum, but I think he'll be okay in that regard. I just think it's time that you give Eric Hosmer a chance to play. You go to war. You figure out the whole thing with the catcher. That's been a mystery the whole season. Yeah. And as far as the pitching goes, you got to go with what you have. There's not that much in free agency right now, unless you catch lightning in a barrel with somebody new, the way that Chris Levy did with Giolito, But right now, just try to get out of the basement. Try to have a respectable last 10 weeks. And as far as Bobby, talk to me. How do you feel like his season is going? What do you think he should do? It seems to be having a pretty solid season across the board. So what can you really say? What can he really do at this point? He just won big.
Yeah. The thing about Bobby is that he's got the names that you would think would be carrying him, and he's just outside the play. If the playoffs were to start right now, he'd be the first team out. You look at the names, and it's like he's got a glutton of guys that all sort of play the same position. In Trout, Kane, Adam Jones, Nick Markakis, Brett Gardner, Will Myers. It's a ton of guys, and if you throw Ketel Marte in there, it's all outfielders that are center field or right field eligible. With Gardner and Will Myers, it's left field eligible. And it's hard every day for him to probably, pick the right guys. He had the opportunity this season to move off of a couple of guys. I know I offered him deals for Syndergaard and Ozuna, which doesn't help him as far as the outfield is concerned. I really think he needs to make a deal and unclog his outfield situation, and to a lesser extent, unclog his infield too. He's still playing Jurickson Profar, who, the guy's got 10 bombs and he's got 40 RBIs. He's playing a lot better recently, but the guy has been bad the first half. He's only hitting 219 this year, and I can tell you, up until maybe 2 weeks ago, he was hitting under 200. The fact that he's hanging on to that guy and, benching guys, today he's benching Will Myers, but that's a whole nother matter. If he can unclog his outfield, maybe get a pitcher to replace Syndergaard, who's on the DL right now, or, kind of shore up what he's got going on, that's kind of where it's at. He's He's going to get Corey Kluber back at some point, whom, by the way, he picked up Corey Kluber and just threw him on his bench back in May. And I thought that was a really, really smart move. Because he's got Garrett Cole and he's got Noah Syndergaard. You throw Kluber into that mix, and he could really have a front three that could really go to war. I just question whether or not he's going to be able to get into battle at this point. Because, as we know, Syndergaard, they're only saying he's going to miss one start. But who knows how bad that hamstring really is with the Mets training staff.
Sure. But at the same time, Bobby's offense has stayed together against his opponents most of the season. He's 8-3 in runs. He's 6-4 in doubles. He's at 500 in home runs. He's 7-5 in RBIs. He's 10-2 in walks. He's 9-2 in errors. 6-6 in average. 7-5 in on base percentage. I mean,
that just tells me
basically 500. He stayed steady, against his opponents. So with all these guys and all these decisions that he has to make day to day, he's probably left a good amount on the bench, but he's already gotten a lot of those right. So
sure.
At this point,
but that tells me
saying,
that he
I like
has
all these guys. I want to play by the numbers.
Sure, but all that tells me in the record that he has offensively is that he's got assets to move, and can you read me off his pitching records? I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, of course I have it right here. So as far as the pitching goes, maybe I don't have it. No, I do. Okay, so the pitching goes like this. He's 39-45 for the season. He's got 100 home runs given up, 206 walks, 681 strikeouts. He's pitching to a 4.39 ERA, and he's pitching to a 1.26 WHIP. Now, as far as the ERA goes, he is in the bottom half. It looks like he's about 12th place here. Now, as far as against opponents, he's 4-8 in innings pitched. He's 6-6 in wins, 2-7 in losses. That's a tough one.
Yep.
Okay, 8-3 in saves, 7-5 in home runs, 10-2 in walks given up, 4-8 in strikeouts, under 500 in ERA, at 500 in WHIP. It's not great for sure. The 2-7 in losses stick out, and the 4-8 in innings pitched stick out, but then tolerable.
Sure.
It makes sense to me that this guy is in 7th place and right in the running here. And with 10 weeks to go, and this guy is the reason why Bobby didn't make the playoffs last year is because Mike Sherman missed the minimum against Andy.
Yep.
And Andy got into the playoffs by one stat over Bobby. It's pretty freaking heartbreaking. And Bobby, he wants this one, man. And he's going to do whatever he has to. And trading right now, I'm sure there's been tempting offers on his table, but he doesn't know which one of these guys is going to go off. And if Adam Jones is going to explode in the second half and have 16 or 17 dingers, he's going to be disappointed if he trades Adam Jones.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's going to be the guy. I'm just saying, like, Payne, Jones, they're all these guys with value. Ketel Marte, you can consider trading this guy and say, how the heck is Ketel Marte going to keep this up? Maybe this is the time to move Ketel Marte. And even if you have a shortstop, I think you'd be intrigued, at least listening, if he's willing to shop Ketel Marte.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. That would certainly be a guy to sell high. It'll be interesting to see what Bobby does because, as you said, he wants this bad, and I know from experience. I've been playing fantasy football against this guy for over a decade, and if there's one thing I know about Bobby, it's that he's going to compete and he's going to grind it out against you every single week. So I certainly am rooting for Bobby. We'll see what happens. Let's jump over to the next one. You brought this guy up earlier. It's Chris Levy who took on Ari Nisman this week. Chris is 6-1-1 in his last 8. Ari comes in winning 3 of his last 4. And Chris puts the hammer down and stops the winning streak Ari has been on. Takes down the win 15-7. Close categories this week. Looks like Chris won by a triple, 2 RBIs, a win, and a save. Ari wins by a home run and a complete game. For Chris on his bench, he goes 10 for 41. That's a 244 batting average, 8 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 5 RBIs, a steal, 4 walks, and 10 strikeouts. This matchup started out quite the opposite of what it ended up. Ari was kind of dominating this in the early going, and Chris was able to flip this thing right on its head as the week continued. He dropped a whole bunch of dudes on Monday, and added guys like Brian Anderson and Kevin Biggio late. He dropped Hernan Perez. He streamed Daniel Ponce de Leon. Picked up and then dropped Adrian Sampson on, I think it was Saturday. He certainly grinded this one out and really flipped this thing on its nose. I don't have in front of me what happened on Sunday between these two. Maybe you do, but this is one of those matchups where it started out one way and you're picturing it like, okay, this might be the end of Chris's big run here. Ari's coming on really strong, and it completely flips on you.
Well, for me, it's just the fact that Chris Levy stays hot. Ari, 3 out of 4 weeks with a win. This was a big matchup for both of these teams, and it's kind of heart-wrenching for Ari because, like you said, Ari did have a lead at some point during this week, and everything was still close though. So this thing was kind of bouncing around all week from what I saw. As far as the close categories, it's heartbreaking. The lose by 3 doubles. For the average to be just 219 after Ari had such an explosive offensive week the week before, and then to come out the next week and just lay an egg at 219 and have a 276 on base percentage, that was heartbreaking. The fact that he threw to a 5.26 ERA. I mean, Chris didn't even get under 4. Chris's ERA was 4.09, but that was good enough to beat Ari's 5.26 ERA. So Ari's pitching, that's been the problem in the beginning of the season. He started to figure out in the last few weeks, but again, it just comes back to bite him. His average is terrible, and it's really not anything that necessarily Ari could have done. I saw Ari making moves this week. I saw Ari trying and fighting against a hot team that stayed hot, and this puts some separation. I mean, Ari is still trying. He's already made an acquisition today, so I know that because he's moved up in the standings a little bit, he's still hungry. He can still get to that 500 point. He's still technically more so in the running than some of these other teams. Yeah. So you could possibly still see another run. If he's won 3 out of 4 weeks, if he could pull that off again, another 3 out of 4 weeks, he'll be right in there. It's just it's tough to see him go through this because he fought his way back and then he gets doubled up here. Yeah.
For him this week, and it's just going to point to exactly what he's done, what his Achilles heel has been this year. On his bench, he went 42 for 133. That's a 316 average, 18 runs, 8 doubles, 7 homers, 15 RBIs, 8 walks, 25 strikeouts, and 3 errors.
That's miserable.
It's absolutely miserable.
Miserable bench line.
Yeah, and you said it last week, Ari likes to carry a deep bench, but this is what you're going to end up with when you carry a deep bench like this. Jake Bauers again on Tuesday went 3 for 5, 2 runs, a double, a homer, and an RBI. Brian Reynolds was 0 for 4 in left field. Rougned Odor went 1 for 4 with a homer. Freddie Galvis was 0 for 3 at second base. On Thursday, his entire team in the lineup hit 103. On his bench, Jay Bruce 3 for 3 with a homer. Galvis 2 for 4. Reddick 2 for 5. Bauers, Odor, and Vlad did not have a single hit at first, second, or utility. It's
okay.
Good.
So I was going to say we can probably then talk about how Ari's team let him down to an extent, but his intuition was off this week.
Yes.
I mean, if he does things a little bit differently, maybe he turns around about 3 or 4 categories based on what he does day to day. But it turns out that he had a ton that was just left on the bench that obviously could have been put in. He could have at least turned around doubles. It's hard to get all of them right. It's hard to get every decision nailed on every day. You pinpointed a couple here with Freddie Galvis probably shouldn't have been in one day or not. It's hard to get them all right, but even if he gets a couple more right, his batting average on the bench is incredible. So that's you just think that maybe if he just does it a little bit better, at least he can take 2 more stats at least.
Well, let's say he gets half of what is on his bench, right? That's a fair thing to do. He makes half of the right decisions. If he gets half of the runs that were on his bench, he ties runs. If he gets half of the doubles that were on his bench, he wins doubles. If he gets half of the RBIs that were on his bench,
runs on the bench,
yeah. If he gets half of the RBIs on his bench, he dominates RBIs. If he gets half of the walks, he doesn't win walks. But just in those 3 categories, runs, doubles, and RBIs, if he gets half of the ones on his bench, it's a much different matchup. It's 12-10 at that point.
Sure. Yeah, and even still, he had a great batting average, so it's possible that, he could have, no, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong matchup. No, his batting average was 215, and he didn't win it by much. I don't know if he puts these guys in, if it changes that much.
Yeah, does the average come up that much? I don't think so.
I don't know, but it gets him a lot closer, and then maybe different decisions are made by Chris on Sunday.
Sure.
He gets psyched out because of it, but right now, it's something that I overlooked, as you're pointing out, is that Ari had a really, really tough week managing as far as his intuition goes.
Yep. Key players this week for Chris who won the week. It's going to be Michael Brantley, who, again, I hit on this once before. How did a team like Houston end up getting this guy in the middle of their lineup? 419 average, 455 on base this week, 4 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, 4 RBIs, 2 walks, and 4 strikeouts. The guy's hitting 322 on the season with 11 bombs and 43 RBIs. Did Houston really need to get this guy into their lineup? That's not even fair. Brian Anderson he picked up this week and was amazing for him. 357 average, 400 on base, 4 runs, 3 doubles, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. And finally, Jose Altuve comes back from the DL, and he does pretty well for him. 304 average, 333 on base, 4 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, an RBI, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. That's going to be the big thing going forward, is how does Jose Altuve do coming off this DL stint? If he can be the catalyst to push Chris forward, it's going to be a really dangerous team. Pitching-wise for Chris, Alex Colomé led the way with 2 saves, 2 relief appearances, nothing earned, a walk. That's an 0.50 whip. Rick Porcello, 13 innings, a win, a loss, 5 walks, 10 strikeouts, a 3.46 ERA, a 1.31 whip. He matched up against Jose Barrios on the 17th, which was Monday, and Barrios gave me a great start. But the offense of Minnesota simply could not hit Porcello, and he ended up winning 2-0. It was so annoying to see this guy, Rick Porcello, who's a former Cy Young winner. Let's not poo-poo him too much. But he's throwing to a 4.52 this year with a 1.35 whip, and he outduels Jose Barrios this week. Finally, Marco Gonzalez, he gets picked up this week and gets 6 2/3 with a win and 5 strikeouts, a 2.70 ERA, and a 1.05 whip. The start was at home against Kansas City. A great stream from Chris here. Looks like he's going to be hanging on to this guy as he didn't drop him. For Ari, going to be the same, the usual characters, man. It's going to be Nolan Arenado again. He hit 368 with a 478 on base percentage, 5 runs, a double, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Not a single game came in Colorado this week. But he still hit fairly well. But you do notice the weeks that he's in Colorado, he's crushing it. The weeks he's not so much. Charlie Blackmon, coming off of the ridiculous week last week, follows it up fairly nicely. 280 average, 280 on base, 5 runs, a double, 2 homers, 2 RBIs, and 3 strikeouts. And finally, Ahmed Rosario, I highlight him as he hit 400 and a 438 on base percentage, 2 runs, 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, 3 steals, and that was important because Ari won steals. And he had 1 walk and 6 strikeouts. Pitching-wise, again, this is Ari's Achilles heel this season, man. He did get the complete game from Walker Buehler, though he did give up 2 earned runs. 16 strikeouts, though, is incredible. 2 ERA, 3.33 whip. Sergio Romo gets him 2 saves, 4 1/3, 4 relief appearances, a 2.08 ERA and an 0.92 WHIP. And finally, I'm going to give it to Anthony DeSclafani. He wasn't good. Not very many people on his staff were. He pitched to a 6.52, but he had 13 strikeouts across the 9 2/3. That's really where it's at. Weird thing about baseball, right? DeSclafani's second start, 4 1/3, the loss, 9 strikeouts. Start was in Milwaukee. It's a 12.46 ERA. It's crushing. It's absolutely crushing. Anything to add, Benji?
No, I'm wondering what happens from here. What happens to these two guys? What happens the rest of the way? Does Ari pull it together to get himself back into the running? Does Chris continue this run that he's on? It's going to be interesting to see what these two guys do. Two guys whose seasons are going in different directions, but for Chris, he took an 18-0 loss in week 2, and then you thought that was going to be the beginning of the end that early, and look where he is now. So he was in that direction, now he's trending in the other way, and it just goes to show that anything can happen in just a matter of weeks. So I know that Ari believes that also. I know that Ari realizes that just one win, like the loss that he just took, and he's right back in. So I know that both of these guys are hungry to try to compete these last 10 weeks, but it's going to be very, very interesting, for me at least, to see two guys that, number one, Chris, never been in the playoffs before. Ari, he's been in the playoffs 5 out of the last 6 years. So we're gonna see these guys and what they're gonna do in these next 10 weeks. And for me, Chris Levy, he's got the tools to be a playoff team. From top to bottom, his pitching, his hitting, to me, Chris Levy, it looks like this is the one where he's finally going to break the mold and finally go to the playoffs.
Absolutely. It looks like he's trending in the right direction. Let's move on. It's going to be James Santangelo, Smell My Shorts, going up against Uncle Barry. Put a halt to losing. And you know what? He changed his team name this week, and he did put a halt to his losing. He came in losing 7 of his last 9. James Santangelo 1-2-1 in his last 4. But Uncle Barry gets the win here 10-9. Uncle Barry won by a loss and a save. James didn't win anything close, and they tied in relief appearances. For Uncle Barry on his bench, 17 for 56. That's a 304 average, 5 runs, 7 doubles, a homer, 6 RBIs, a stolen base, 5 walks, and 4 strikeouts. For the interesting thing, on Wednesday, he had 2 really bad starts in Zach Davies and Trevor Williams. The thing I find interesting, well, I'll get to that in a minute. Miles Mikolas also gave him a good start, though, 6 innings, a win, and 4 strikeouts on Monday. As far as the ad drops this week, he dropped Gregory Polanco. I found interesting. I don't know if he just doesn't believe in the guy anymore, but that's a guy who came back last year from a shoulder injury and had a ridiculous second half. And in a couple of moves there, he ends up picking up Stephen Piscotty and then dropping him the next day. I'm not quite sure where he's at with his outfield right now, with Raimel Tapia, Starling Marte, now Dwight Smith Jr., and Leury Garcia. Yeah, and well, he ended up dropping Brian Goodwin for Piscotty, and then Piscotty for Dwight Smith Jr. I feel like all these guys are kind of basically the same. You know, Leury Garcia's in there, Brock Holt's now in there. Like, there's just, it's a whole bunch of, like, kind of the same dude. And Polanco, to me, is just that next step up from all of these guys, and he's the guy who got dropped first. I'm interested to see what happens there. I'll
say while you're double checking that Uncle Barry at one point in this week, his team name was "I Need a Good Win."
Yes,
and I guess that had to be taken out because he dropped them. Mm-hmm. But he put the need and the as different words because they are. But he separated good and win as separate words. I guess to just try to save. But like Goodwin is his name, so Uncle Barry, you got to keep that together.
Yeah.
If anything, you know. Yeah. So you just try to put something else. If you need to save space, do it in room. But you got to put good and win as
one word.
That's the idea. You can't separate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. For James this week, it was 13 for 50 with a 260 batting average, 7 runs, 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, 8 walks, 8 strikeouts, and an error. The only 2 things I noticed, he benched Joey Lucchesi on Monday against Milwaukee. I don't blame him for that benching, but it was 7 innings, a win, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, and an 0.86 whip. He didn't give up a run. But then 2 days later starts Blake Snell in New York, and it might be the worst start this season. It was a third of an inning, a 162 ERA, and an 18 whip. It's gross. Just absolutely bombs it. But he wins ERA and whip this week. How the hell does that happen?
You know, I just think he managed pretty decently, pretty conservatively with the 46 innings. He managed to win wins also. You know, that the sitting on Monday, I believe that he sat lefty early. Lucchesi,
yeah.
He sat him early, yeah. So that, to me, is big because let's say he does start him and he gets those strikeouts. It kind of sets him up for later in the week that maybe he can win that category as well. So that's the one for me. And the fact that relief appearances tied, that neither one of these guys had a move in them to try to pick up a bullpen piece, like that should never have happened that they tied that category. One of the 2 of them should have been going after that. My guess is that Uncle Barry had different things in mind, and James could have picked up a bullpen piece. That's my thought.
Yeah, it looks like Uncle Barry was going for offensive pieces to try to, I don't know, get doubles or triples or something in there. And James, he didn't make a move after. Well, he made a move on Sunday, but it was dropping a reliever for a Homer Bailey start, which I found interesting.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. At the same time, I could also understand Uncle Barry. He benched a starter on Sunday because he wanted to avoid the losses. So maybe he's thinking, you know, I could get that relief appearance, but I might also suffer a loss in the process. That's the only. I know that's the reason why he didn't start the starter on Sunday that he could have. But as far as just, I don't know. I think it's very unlikely. It's more of a chance that if that reliever comes in, he won't give up a loss. But I see the restraint as well.
Absolutely. Key players this week for James, man, it's another week and another Christian Yelich highlight. 333 average, 355 on base, 7 runs, 3 doubles, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, a stolen base, a walk, and 6 strikeouts. Yasmani Grandal had a good week. Well, I mean, he only hit 190, but he had a 370 on-base percentage, 4 runs, a double, 2 homers, 5 RBIs, 4 walks, and 6 strikeouts. And finally, Matt Carpenter, 214 average, a 333 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, an RBI, 2 steals, 5 walks, and 9 strikeouts. At the end of the day, James's team only hit 234, which is pretty surprising considering we highlighted how good his offense is and can be. And this week, he just kind of lays an egg despite winning 5 offensive categories.
Yeah, this is a great offense, led by Christian Yelich. Right in the first couple of weeks, it was only Christian Yelich. I understand that. But like you said, across the board, there's some solid hitters for this guy's team, specifically guys on the Colorado Rockies and the Milwaukee Brewers, and they just didn't produce this week. That's all you can say. Yeah. I mean, this guy is clearly at the top at a lot of the offensive categories. James has a 267 average. I mean, that's pretty solid amongst our league. It's amongst the top, above the average. You know, for 347 on base, that's also, the guys are doing it for him. It was just a matter of this week they went cold.
Yeah, and it happens. You know what? He still ends up. He doesn't take a bad loss here. You know what I mean? Like,
right. He keeps himself in it after all of that.
Absolutely. Pitching wise for James, it was Homer Bailey. As I said, he picked him up on Sunday and streamed him. Got 5 1/3, a win, a homer, a walk, 5 strikeouts. That's a 1.69 ERA and a 1.13 WHIP. The start was against Minnesota, and that's a dangerous start considering how good Minnesota's been. It is at home. Kauffman's kind of a neutral park. But it's Homer Bailey, man. Like, he's not good. He started Tanner Roark, 6 innings, a 1.50 WHIP, 7 strikeouts, and a win. That one was in Milwaukee. That's an even more dangerous start than than the Homer Bailey start. And finally, Roenis Elias gets him 2 saves, 3 relief appearances, and 3 innings. I highlight him because those were the only 2 saves he got, and he didn't win the category, but it was he lost it by 1.
Right. No, and he tied relief appearances with that as well.
Exactly. For Uncle Barry, Xander Bogaerts has been really good for him. 250 average, 323 on base, 3 runs, 5 doubles, 4 RBIs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, and an error. I highlight him because he had the most doubles on the team, and he won it by 1. Leury Garcia was good for him this week. 412 average, 444 on base, 4 runs, a double, a homer, and RBI. That was a leadoff home run against, I believe it was John Lester in Wrigley. He got a walk and 2 strikeouts on the week. Finally, Yuli Gurriel, 321 average, 367 on base, 2 runs, 2 doubles, a homer, and RBI, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. Uncle Barry had a really good week offensively, despite, not winning any of the real big counting stats, the steals, the RBIs, the homers, the runs scored. His ratios were what mattered. Average on base percentage. He didn't strike out as much, and he did win 1 counting stat in doubles. Pitching wise for him, Brandon Woodruff is, I guess it's his ace this year. 13 innings, 1-1 record, 18 strikeouts, 2 homers, 2 walks. He has a 4.85 ERA and a 1.23 WHIP. He did have a bad start in San Diego, 6 innings and a loss, but he had a great start at home against Cincinnati. He got the win, 7 innings, 12 strikeouts. Fantastic start from him. Tommy Malone also gave him a good start, 11 in the third. 0-1 record, 12 strikeouts, a 3.18 ERA, and a .88 WHIP. 2-start week, obviously. It was at home against Kansas City and at home against Baltimore. The performance against Kansas City was a relief appearance. They obviously threw an opener in front of him. 6 in the third, 6 strikeouts, only 1 earned. The start he had was at home against Baltimore, 5 innings, looks like 4 earned. Finally, Felipe Vasquez won him the saves category, 3 1/3, 4 relief appearances, 4 strikeouts, and 3 saves. Uncle Barry really needed a big win this week, and I don't know, man. I think we're looking at him the same way we were looking at Frank. His season may be over.
Yeah, it just seems that way. He just took too many big losses. Couldn't get over the hump, and terrific manager that I know is going to spoil. And if I'm playing Uncle Barry, I'm not looking forward to it. It's one team with a great manager. No matter who's on it, he's going to compete for 7 days. So I wouldn't want to play this team as he's going to look to spoil. But as far as the playoffs look, it's not. It's a shame. He's such a great manager, such a hard worker in this league, and just ran into bad luck.
Well, you say you don't want to face him, Benny. You face him in week 21, so he could spoil some things for you.
Right, and I'll tell you, when I played against him, he batted unbelievable. He batted over 300. I couldn't stop it. I managed to win 12-9, I believe, over him, just because I was pitching well enough, and I barely won ERA or WHIP or something.
Oh yeah, that was that historic matchup where you each pitched to a sub-2 ERA.
Right, yeah, and the whips were under 1.
The whips were under .8.
78.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. We're gonna jump to.
I don't want to mess with Uncle Barry at this point in the season. As far as James is kind of the middle of the pack guy. I don't know where you stand. I know that he's going to keep competing. It's just a matter of if he's got the team right now. I think he's got the offense. He's got some nice pitching guys. He doesn't really have much of a bullpen here, but I don't know, man. It's going to be as far as that James wants to work.
Yeah.
If he's going to he's got the least amount of moves out of all 16 managers. I think that includes Josh Haber. He has less moves than Josh.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's any kind of logic in if you make more moves, your team will do better. His brother Donato made, I believe it was something like 16 or 19 moves the entire season in 2018 and got all the way to second place.
Yep.
And he was third place going into no, actually, I think he was fourth or fifth going into the playoffs. But even still, I mean, the guy basically made no moves and was just running through opponents. So I don't know if there's any correlation between making moves and having success. but I will say that James has had opportunities to make moves and get more categories, and he hasn't done it. So for me, over the next 10 weeks, it's about him more capitalizing on opportunities. That if he doesn't have a ton of guys in his lineup on a short schedule, like on Monday and on Thursday, maybe he should try to fill up the lineup more. Maybe he'll add a couple more offensive stats that way.
Yeah, I completely agree, and we'll see. Like you said, it's how hard James Santangelo wants to work, as whether or not he's going to really be in contention. He is under 500 right now. He's got like 5 teams he would need to jump to get to the playoffs. I think he's about where we draw the line when it comes to teams in contention.
Right.
Especially if Ari doesn't win this week. Ari is right on that cusp where I'm not yet ready to write him off, but if he doesn't win this week, I will.
Right.
Moving on to, we've highlighted a few blowouts this week. There was your beating of Frank, there was Bobby's beating of Josh, there was Chris's beating of Ari, and then there was this. There was Mike Sherman literally donkey punching Andy in the head over and over again for the entire week. There was a point this week where Mike was up 20-0 in this matchup, and it was pretty late in the week. Honestly, I think Andy's pretty lucky to get out of this with only an 18-2 loss, and I say that without any kind of joking manner. This was as bad a beating as I've seen in the Bigs since the 18-0 loss that Chris Levy took. Close categories this week. Mike wins by a strikeout and a save. Andy wins by a loss, and they tied in triples with nothing. On the bench for Mike Sherman, 5 for 21. That's a .238 average. 8 runs, a double, a triple, a homer, 3 RBIs, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts. The triple, I actually didn't even mark down where it was, so give me a moment, and you can sort of...
Well, okay, I'll take over in the meantime. Mike Sherman, how he's turned his season around to now being a 500 team is beyond me. But talk about a guy that's gone on an incredible streak now, and that's a win 18-2 to basically bury a guy. No, I'll say it. He just buried Andy after he just made that trade, and we'll talk about how the trade affected Andy as well, because the trade does affect him this week, and how it's just amazing to me how an 18-2 loss now all of a sudden puts one guy right in the playoffs and scaring anybody who has to face them, and the other guy who's been in the playoffs the last 2 years, he's done and out. It's just amazing.
Absolutely. I found the triple. It was on Saturday. It was Derek Dietrich on his bench, and Gleyber Torres wasn't playing at second base. It was an absolutely gettable triple.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you see that Mike Sherman, once again, doesn't get into the playoffs by one stat, that's what one will look at. Because the fact of the matter is that Dietrich could have been in his line. There's no reason why he couldn't have been, unless it had to do with a day game and a night game kind of thing where Torres' lineup didn't come out yet. I don't know what time they were both playing. That's the only reason I could think, unless Mike just wasn't checking. But when you have an 18-1, I want to hold on to that as long as possible. Like I said, it was at one point 20-0.
Yeah, it was.
So the fact that at least Andy could have grabbed a couple of stats, that's more about Mike than it is Andy. Because right now, Andy, whether he grabbed an extra stat or not, doesn't really matter. It's really Mike Sherman needs every single stat over the next 10 weeks. He can't afford to lose that many. Maybe he can lose one matchup pretty big, but for the most part, he needs to keep collecting wins because it's only about around 500. The rest of us are starting to make space about 20 games over for some of us. So, he's got to really chip away here. This was a good way to start.
Yeah. To highlight that triple just a little bit further, Dietrich was in the lineup against Julius Chassin in Milwaukee. Hitter's ballpark, bad pitcher, righty-lefty. Gleyber Torres would have been in the lineup against Wade Miley at home. Hitter's ballpark, lefty-righty, but Miley is the much better pitcher. And
sure, but yeah, that's just a matchup thing. I
it's
don't know.
splitting hairs. It's absolutely
Feel
splitting
for it.
hairs.
And which is the better player when all is said and done?
Sure,
you know?
sure. Moves, nothing really exciting happened for Mike Sherman other than picking up and then immediately dropping Cameron Maybin. I think I would have held on to that guy because he's been stupid hot lately. Again, nothing to really write home about. For Andy, it's a .303 batting average on his bench, 10 for 33, 6 runs, 4 doubles, 2 homers, 10 RBIs, 5 walks, 7 strikeouts. On Monday, Joey Wendell hit 111. Jorge Polanco was in his utility spot instead of playing shortstop, and Nelson Cruz hit a double on his bench. I know the trade went through like right before the start of like a 4 o'clock game that I think Jorge Polanco was a part of, and he threw him in, and this is what went down. But later on in the week, Ryan Braun went 2 for 4 with a run, a double, a homer, and 3 RBIs on the bench, and Matt Olson was 0 for 5 at first base. He also dropped Ryan Braun this week. I'm pretty surprised about it, and I'd like to hear your thoughts.
You know, I think it's just a matter of pushing the panic button, possibly, and just thinking it's time to cut ties and try something new. It's a lot of decisions to make every day. He wants to play Nelson Cruz every day. I can understand it. Mm-hmm. That's a home run waiting to happen. It's hard to get a guy in the lineup that only has the utility eligibility, and that's Nelson Cruz. So maybe it's just a matter of making the decisions easier for him. It's hard to say. As far as what he did on his bench, it just didn't seem to matter that much. I mean, he could have made a lot more better decisions throughout the week, but when Mike is batting at a .315 and a .407 on-base percentage over 222 at-bats, the only team that could have beaten him was Bobby. Mm-hmm. You know, Mike had 49 runs. Mike had 44 RBIs. What are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
So, it's funny that a lot of these times when we're seeing these guys and we see the great batting average and the on-base percentage, there's a couple of cases where it's an exception, but for the most part, they're facing against a guy that had no shot. And I prefer it that way because it's much more heartbreaking when you see one guy bat .305, but then the other team batted .318. It's like, oh, come on. Like a .305.
.305 should win me this week. Yeah. All right, key players this week for Mike, who just dominated this thing. I mean, we can pick just about anybody in his lineup, and you can count them as a key player, but Pete Alonso had himself a huge week. .417 average, .548 on base percentage, 7 runs, 3 doubles, 4 homers, 8 RBIs, 7 walks, 7 strikeouts, and an error. This kid is amazing. I love that he's our first baseman of the future. Manny Machado finally woke up. .444 average, .464 on base, 5 runs, 4 doubles, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and 6 strikeouts, but he did have 3 errors. And finally, Gleyber Torres did have a great week for him. .250 average, .318 on base, 6 runs, 3 homers, 9 RBIs, 2 walks, and 6 strikeouts. With that kind of line, I can understand why you're playing him on Saturday to keep it. Well, he had homered in the previous 3 straight games. So, yeah, I don't blame him one bit for keeping Torres in the lineup now that I see that. Pitching-wise for Mike, Sean Kelly, 3 1/3. Did take a loss, but 2 saves, 5 strikeouts, 3 relief appearances. Mike Fiers had a good week, 12 2/3, a win, 5 walks, 6 strikeouts, a 1.42 ERA, and a 1.03 WHIP. His starts were against Baltimore and Tampa Bay, both at home. As we know, the Coliseum is an absolute canyon. And finally, Clayton Kershaw, 7 innings, a win, 6 strikeouts, nothing earned, an 0.71 ERA. Start was at home against the Giants, as to be expected. For Andy, Nomar Mazara gave him a good week, 400 average, 471 on base, 5 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 6 RBIs, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. Ramon Laureano was good, 333 average, 379 on base, 4 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 6 RBIs, a steal, but 11 strikeouts is rough. And finally, I'm going to highlight Matt Olson, 280 average, 400 on base, 3 runs, 3 doubles, a homer, 3 RBIs, 5 walks, and 4 strikeouts. Pitching-wise for Andy, Zach Wheeler is finally maybe turning the corner. 13 innings, a 1-1 record, a homer, 3 walks, 9 strikeouts, a 3.46 ERA, a 1.38 WHIP. He had a good start and a bad start this week. The bad start was in Atlanta. the good start was in Chicago. This guy's kind of a toss-up, and the question is, like, is he a second-half guy? Is that what we're going to see? I don't know the answer to that. Patrick Corbin gave...
I don't even know if he's going to be... You got to trade him, though. The Mets have to move on from him.
If they're not going to be in the race, they have to trade this guy and get something for him. Patrick Corbin gave him a good start. 7 innings, 8 strikeouts, a 1.29 ERA, and a 1 WHIP. And finally, I'm going to highlight Edwin Diaz. 1 relief appearance, 1 save, 1 inning. It was clean, 2 strikeouts. You did, however, mention how the trade affected Andy this week. I believe you're going to talk about Trevor Bauer.
Yeah, that's what I would target most. Just because, you know, at the same time, it's not the not having him. It's also the fact that you had him. It's also the not having Verlander. Mm-hmm. You know, it just might have changed everything if you had Verlander this week.
Yeah, Trevor Bauer pitched 4 innings, 11.25 ERA, 2.75 WHIP. It was a pretty bad start coming off of the complete game shutout last Sunday. 7 2/3 before that, 8 innings, 7 innings, and 6 innings his previous 5 starts. So to see a clunker like this against Detroit at home is pretty surprising.
Yeah.
All right, those are the matchups.
I got to also say, let me just also throw in there that this guy has pitched some pretty solid guys out here, like Corbin, this guy Bassett. You know, this is just Andy walked into a buzzsaw here. You know,
absolutely.
And not to say that Andy pitched that great. He threw to a 4.74 ERA. He had some nice performances, and he had a 280 batting average, which is pretty darn solid, and which should win you the week on most fantasy weeks, but, like, it wasn't going to be 315. It wasn't going to be a 407 on base percentage. And again, some solid pitching performances from Andy, but it might be too late now.
Yeah, he's only won 2 of his last, looks like, 8 matchups. And in the last 2 weeks, he's only gotten 6 category wins to 33 losses. That's going to bury you in a hurry.
And as far as the pitching goes, it's just there's nothing that you can really. When you're 4-8 in ERA, you're 4-8 in walks given up, you're 2-8 in home runs given up. You know, there's not really anything that you're 5-6 in losses. Okay, you're 8-4 in innings pitched, and you're 6-4 in wins, but just not winning an ERA ever. You know, you can't get up ahead if your pitching isn't going to be good consistently.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, guys, that'll do it for the matchups. Let's jump to bests and worsts of the week. Benny, best start of the week. Go ahead and talk about it.
Okay, I'll say Tanaka. I'll say it strictly because, number one, it's a complete game, and it's on a Monday. Yeah. Why does that matter? Because when you get a complete game on a Monday, what it does is it sets you up for the entire week. You don't need to do that much throughout as far as starting pitchers. You can hold strong with a bullpen and a sprinkle of start here and there. And then all of a sudden, you're in cruise control. You're probably not going to lose walks given up. You're probably not going to lose ERA. And you're probably not going to lose whip. So I'll give it to Tanaka. I'm trying to get the entire performance for you, though.
I'll highlight mine while you're looking that up. Mine will go to Ari's Walker Buehler start at home against Colorado on Friday. Complete game win. He did give up 2 homers, but 16 big strikeouts. That's the thing that stands out to me. You know, you can get a complete game and maybe there's 5 or 6 strikeouts. In Tanaka's case, there were 10, but 16 is a huge number to put up, man. Like, that's a good way to anchor in a solid win, which Ari didn't get this week, but it was a hell of a. Did he win strikeouts this week? I feel like he did. He did not. He did not even win strikeouts, so it's disappointing to see that.
It didn't incorporate. It was just an incredible Walker Buehler start. Walker Buehler, continues to go on this nice run that he's had, and Ari needs him to continue it throughout, or else Ari, is not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah, he had a terrible. Yeah, he had a terrible start to the season. Like the first, I'd say, month to 6 weeks was really bad.
Right. No, Masahiro Tanaka, 9 innings pitched, for the win, of course, the complete game. Only 1 walk given up and 10 strikeouts.
Yep.
It's a 0 ERA. It's a .33 whip.
Absolutely.
So that was the biggest start for me because it really changed the entire matchup.
Yep. Best weekly performance of an offensive player. I'm going to go ahead and give it to DJ LeMahieu. Man, he really helped propel Nick to a big, important win, especially, giving Jimmy the loss in the playoff race that we're in. 435 average, 519 on base percentage, 10 runs, a triple, 3 homers, 10 RBIs, a steal, 4 walks, and 3 strikeouts. You can't ask for anything more from DJ LeMahieu, who's a guy that Nick drafted in the 15th round. He went 232nd overall.
Yeah, that's a great point. The fact that he was picked so late, which is surprising. The guy did win a batting title. I understand it was in Colorado, but you knew that in this Yankee lineup, he'd be with Judge, he'd be with Stanton, Torres, Sanchez, you name it.
Yeah. That
this would be the unsung guy seeing a lot of pitches because you're afraid to pitch to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been unbelievable. I expected a good season. I guess I just didn't expect this kind of season. That's fair.
Sure.
For me, I guess I'll go with the hometown hero, breaking a Mets rookie record in home runs. He ties Darryl Strawberry on Saturday. He breaks the record on Sunday. And there was a lot of guys that I could give this to. Mike Trout had a great week. Ketel Marte. I want to give it to Pete Alonso. 7 runs, 3 doubles, 4 home runs, 8 driven in, 7 walks, 7 strikeouts, 1 error. It's a .417 batting average and a .548 on base.
Absolutely. He was a monster this week. He's going to be a monster for us in years to come. The worst starts and worst weekly performance of a top 2-round player, I'm going to give it to the same guy. It's Blake Snell. Wednesday's start in New York, a third of an inning, a loss, a home run, 4 walks, 6 earned runs. That's a 162 ERA and an 18 whip. It's going to be the worst start we see this year unless somebody else can top it. Thoughts, Benny?
Yeah, no, it's true. This is a guy that won the freaking Cy Young last year. So I don't know, man. Like, for me, it's like, who is this guy right now? I know that he's a great pitcher. We saw what he could do. He was basically untouchable. Is he just that the mystery has gotten solved? Is it just that all the scouting reports are in and there's a tell and they're able to know what pitch is coming and they're just geared in and ready to go? Because I just don't understand why he could take such a spell so quickly unless it's just running into bad luck and running into a bunch of hot teams. Running into hot teams, that's certainly something that's possible.
He had an absolutely awful June so far, and he's still got one more start in June. He 4 1/3 against Detroit with a 12.46 ERA, 3 1/3 against the Angels, an 8.10 ERA, and then this clunker against the Yankees. He had one good start in Boston, but otherwise, man, he's just been really bad. He's pitched to a 4.40 ERA, 101 strikeouts across 75 and 2/3 innings. The strikeouts are there.
Yeah.
Everything else isn't. And
now it's come to the point where you're not sure if you can start him on a game. Certainly not on like early in the week on Monday or a Tuesday. And now you're wondering, you know what? All of a sudden, some guy that you know that you should start every time. Tampa Bay is a good team. Still an American League team, still a lot of American League hitting ballparks out there. Dare you start Blake Snell and take the risk that you might burn your ERA and whip for the entire week early in the week?
Do you know who he goes against this week?
No.
It's Tuesday in Minnesota.
All right, so, that'll be a task.
Yeah.
That'll be a real test for him and for the Tampa Bay Rays and for the Twins also.
Absolutely.
If the Twins continue to capitalize on good pitching, on bad pitching, the Twins are having an amazing season, so this will be a great test for both of these. My bad pitching performance is from Gabriel Quinoa. I picked him up on Sunday for the Baltimore Orioles, thinking the Baltimore Orioles have to win a game sometime, or are they just going to set the record for most losses ever in a season? Well, he went 2 1/3 for the loss. He got a walk given up. 3 walks given up, a home run given up, 27 ERA, and a 3.43 whip. He almost cost me whip as I won by 1/100 of a point, and he did cost me ERA. I lose that as a result
because of the choice to pick him up. So that's what I'm going with.
Nice. Best streamers this week. I'm gonna highlight 3 of them here. Tyler Skaggs for James McCloskey on Tuesday. Was in Toronto, 7 1/3, a win, 6 strikeouts, 1 earned, 1.23 ERA, 0.41 WHIP. My starter Brett Anderson on Tuesday at home against Baltimore, 7 innings, a win, a homer, 2 strikeouts, a walk, 1.29 ERA, 0.71 WHIP. And finally, I'm going to give it to Josh here. Wednesday's start of CC Sabathia at home against Tampa, 6 innings, a win, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, 1 earned, 1.50 ERA, and a 1 WHIP. Anything you got, Benny?
Yeah, actually, my pickup is from somebody that it wasn't even necessarily something that got used for this week. It's a stream for later on, and it's from Frank Bucco, and it's that he picked up Joe Musgrove after he's had some terrible starts, and someone basically gave up on him. I believe it's Uncle Barry.
I also gave up on him.
Putting a waiver, right? I considered a waiver claim on him. It's a guy in the National League. The Pirates have been kind of impressive, at least for me this season. So I think that's a pickup that actually, as Frank tries to bolster his rotation, that's just another piece here that could help him out. So that was my guy, thinking that this is a pickup that no one decided to go after that actually might be a big pickup later on.
Yeah, no, smart move. I ended up dropping him after a couple of bad starts. It was right around the same time I made the big trade with James last week. I ended up dropping him because I felt like I've already got such a strong rotation that somebody like him is kind of expendable, and I wanted to grab a couple of relievers to retool my bullpen. But no, he's been solid. He's just a frustrating own because Clint Hurdle pushes him too far. Let's jump to Manager of the Week. Benji, you asked for the category to be added to the end of the show, so go ahead and give me your Manager of the Week.
It's a really tough call here. There are a lot of great managers. Tough to pick. I was tempted to go with you for as much water as you treaded to try to get to the 10-10 tie. I was tempted to go to Chris Levy based on how he's continued his run. But I'm going with Bobby. I'm going with Bobby because of his ability to know the guys to bench this week. You mentioned the numbers already, and just in an outstanding on-base percentage at .425 as a result. I don't know the last guy that walked out after 7 days with a .425 on-base percentage. For me, between that and the great pitching, the ERA, that he was just awesome. Just an awesome performance for 7 days. The one miss with Kevin Smith, oh well, he, made up for it. Picked up Austin Barnes. Just impressive work from him for 7 days, and I got to give it to him. How about you?
Well, you stole mine. I was going to give it to Bobby, but you know what? I had a second guy in mind just in case you went with Bobby. I'm going to give it to Nick Holman. You know what? Nick had a really good week, and he flipped so much of this matchup late in the week to get a 13-8 win over a top team like Jimmy, breaking an undefeated streak, and having next to nothing on his bench. He's showing that there's still signs of life there. And on Sunday, he had a great week, flipped a bunch of categories, ended up winning, innings pitched and strikeout and ERA. Good job, Nick. Way to play spoiler here toward the middle of the season. Like, if he can keep this up.
No doubt. And even and the minor, regardless of if the minors start, and it is a big miss by Jimmy. Yeah. Even still, Nick would have won this week.
Yeah. He was able to capitalize on a mistake by Jimmy and flip this matchup and give Jimmy an L. Where, look, the top 4 teams right now are separated by less than 7 games, and Nick and Jimmy was winning this matchup on Saturday. So it's a pretty big deal that he ends up on the losing side of a looks like a 5-category change. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping here before we sign off. Benny, you want to talk about the trade deadline? Go ahead and address that.
Okay, fine. So there has been a rule change, and it was done just because we've had some trouble in the past in deciding what's the most ethical, and when it comes to when's it the right time to cut people off from making trades when we feel that they're out of contention. I don't know what that number is. I don't know if it has to be mathematically eliminated. Whatever it may be, it just seemed to me at least that if the MLB has their trade deadline now at a heart, there used to be that waiver deadline, but they're not doing that this year. July 31st is it. For us, that has a shorter season than MLB by 4 weeks, for us to have a later trade deadline, that didn't seem to make a lot of sense for me, for one. So that was the first thing that I just said, you know what, if anything, we need to have it earlier. So ours isn't that much earlier. It's only about 3 days. I think now we've switched it to, it's July 28th from August 4th. So that's where it's at now. It's not that much different than MLB. So those are the two things. The fact that, number one, it doesn't really coincide with baseball that much. The other thing is the ethical process. Where is it logical for a guy to say, you know what, I'm not in it anymore. What am I making trades for? These are players that should be on my team now.
Yeah.
So when we talk about Christian Yelich, if James Santangelo falls out of the race, should Christian Yelich really end up going to another team? I mean, I could understand if we had a keeper league. And I really hope one day that we find 16 consistent guys that we feel like we can get a keeper league going that'll go on and on and on till we're in our 50s, 60s, and beyond. But as of right now, that's not the case. And we can make the argument that in week 20, week 21, and week 22, that teams that make pickups in free agency, that could change things also, because they have just as much a right at those free agents than the guys at the top of the standings. But at least it's regular season, it's not the playoffs. I don't necessarily think it's exactly the same thing as trades, but we can compare them the same way. I want to know your thoughts on this matter, because I do realize it's a decision that's made mid-season. It's not a drastic one, but it is certainly something that can bring up a discussion and bring up a debate.
So let's put this in context first. The trade deadline being moved to the 28th, it means that no more trades will be done after week 16. That is 4 weeks from now. So let's just put that out there. Week 16, that's it. I understand what you're trying to do. I have recognized for many seasons now that teams that fall out of contention shouldn't be trading with top teams in certain instances. It's been a case-by-case basis, man. Like, there's been some trades that have been vetoed for that reason that I didn't agree with, and there are some trades that have been vetoed that I do agree with. It needs to be case by case. I don't think there's like one blanket rule that needs to be made as far as that's concerned. When it comes to this particular decision of changing the trade deadline mid-season, I feel like this is a different season than any other season we've had because of the sheer number of trades and the number of big trades we've had. 11 guys changing hands, 9 guys changing hands, 8 guys changing hands. I understand what the point is. I understand why you're doing what you're doing. I just thought, and initially, gun to my head, I agree with you. Let's do it. Let's make it, closer to the real trade deadline than anything else. However, doing something like this mid-season opens Pandora's box of now we can change any rule mid-season to suit what is happening in the league that year.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't know if it's a Pandora's box. Because this is not such a big rule. They say, you know what? Since we've done this, therefore we should change the inning minimum.
Yeah,
because of this, now we should lower the amount of moves per week. No.
Right.
This is something that's very simple. It's only shortened by 1 week. Mm-hmm. And I do agree with you that this is the most trade activity that I think I can ever remember the Bigs having. Mm-hmm. However, that's another reason that we should possibly cut it down, because we don't want to open the other kind of Pandora's box, which is guys that are big-name players that not necessarily, they should be, for me at least, and I know that I'm not alone, but I also feel like that people are on the other side of this argument, and it's that certain guys should just stay on certain teams for the rest of the season.
Well, it's interesting you say that. 30 minutes ago, while we were shooting this, Frank Bucco posted on the message boards. And I will read it word for word for you. The title is Possible Trade Partner. Quote, I'm looking to deal both JD Martinez and Chris Bryant. Whoever is interested, please send over an offer. Looking for a haul of offense, pitching, or a combination of both. Willing to negotiate as well. Just to be clear as well, I'm trying to compete and I have a plan in mind. I know I'm at the bottom of the league, but I love this and enjoy this so much. Should Frank be able to...
First of all, before you comment on, let me just say those are beautiful words said.
Yes.
And I can't express enough gratitude to this guy as well as everybody for their passion and their tenacity. So regardless of the streak that Frank is on, and it's a brutal streak, he's still enjoying himself. He's still able to get up every day, check his phone, check his computer, make the moves necessary, continue to trade, and I really respect the hell out of this guy who's fighting like every single way that he can just to salvage something.
Yeah. Now, and I completely agree with you. This league is what it is because we have so many great, passionate, and dedicated managers. Look, this show wouldn't be possible without you guys. So thank you so much for making this what it is.
No way.
That brings us to this question, and I knew this. I had seen it before I even brought this topic up, but now we'll talk about it. Should Frank, at this point, 43.5 games out of first and 30.5 games out of sixth, be able to trade JD Martinez?
And how many out of 500?
40 games under 500. Should he be able to trade Chris Bryant and or JD Martinez at this point?
If you're asking me that question right now, as it stands, gut instinct, right?
Right, gun to your head. Gun to your head, you got to make a decision right now.
Gun to my head, I'd say no. But you have to look inside the numbers more. You can't just go with gut, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because where does that get you? But you got to look at the numbers. Okay, so JD Martinez, he's been a little bit cold, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a 288 average, 16 home runs, 42 RBIs, 45 runs. The guy's still on pace for 100 RBIs and 100 runs. To me, you don't trade that guy. If the guy is on pace for over 32 home runs and he's still got a 290 average, what are you getting back that's going to be better? What are you going to fill the spot with that's going to be better?
Mm-hmm.
Unless you're going to talk to me about Christian Yelich or Cody Bellinger, this is one of still the best players.
Exactly.
So I don't understand the purpose of trading them when you can't fill it with something that's going to be as good. I get that you're going to add a pitcher, okay, if this happens. You add a pitcher, you add a bolster rotation. Guess what? A pitcher goes once every 5 days. JD Martinez plays almost every day.
Yep.
Okay? And even if he's cold, he produces. So that's as far as JD Martinez goes.
Chris Bryant has almost identical numbers, Ben. Chris Bryant has almost identical numbers.
More runs. Yeah, he's probably on pace for 90 RBIs, maybe a little more. Basically the same exact stats and a 284 average. Yeah, they're similar players as far as offensively, and you need both of them to win weeks. They are not helping you by benching them. Obviously, you need to play them every single day. And I don't know. To me, these are guys that need to stay on that team, in my opinion, because I don't think that you're gaining anything back that's going to be of equal value. But I don't know where you stand, Joe.
And go back to...
First of all, what's ethical? What's ethical to you, right, as we talk about how Frank's team is practically cooked and that the team that gets them, it might put them over the edge.
Yeah.
And if you are facing Chris Levy or Jason Ashby in the playoffs, and you're seeing one of these two guys, Bryant or JD Martinez, beating you and stopping your run to get to 3 titles in a row, how are you going to feel about the ethics of that trade going down?
Yeah, I'd be pretty upset. It goes back to a case-by-case basis. Do I think that Frank should be limited on who he's able to trade? No, but... Because, look, if Bobby wants to turn around and give him Mike Trout plus for these two guys...
Well, come on, of course. I'd say if you're going to get something that's replaceable, sure.
But I don't think for 1 second that... We'll just use my team as an example, right? let's just say for the sake of argument, I want to get in on this deal. I'm going to give him Yohan Moncada, I'm going to give him an outfielder, I'm going to give him a pitcher, and I'm going to give him a reliever. I'm going to give him 4 dudes, right, for Chris Bryant. Well, now Chris Bryant's going to play third base for me every day, and all I really lost was the guy he's replacing, a guy who clogs up my outfield, one of my pitchers who is incredibly, top-heavy, and a reliever. If I'm somebody at the top of the standings seeing that deal go down, and you have to face me in the playoffs on my run to a third championship, which, by the way, is going to happen, quote it now, June 24th, 2019, three-peat, coming at you. You have to think, this is not right. There's something not right about this, that a guy second to last, 40 games under, 43 and a half out, is going to get a pile of good players for a superstar. And it's not going to change it. It's not going to change the fact that Frank's schedule the rest of the way is an absolute gauntlet. He's got Bobby this week. He's got me next week. He's got Jason, Ari, Mike Sherman, Uncle Barry, Andy, Chris Levy, Mike Haber, and James McCloskey. It is a gauntlet to try to make up 40 games to get to 500 and then get yourself to the playoffs. Look.
Yeah. Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'll just say this. That there was a rumor floating around that JD Martinez was offered for Soroka and Emilio Pagan. Now, I don't know if the deal wasn't done because this was before Soroka got injured, by the way. So I don't know if it was done because Soroka has been so valuable for Mike Haber's team, or because just ethically he didn't feel it was right to take on JD Martinez for those 2 guys. So for whatever reason, the trade didn't go down. But it's a deal like this, man. For Soroka, I get that the guy's having a good year.
Yeah.
But come on, how does that make Frank's team better?
It doesn't. It doesn't make him compete immediately. It's a pitcher and a reliever. He's already made 2 trades this week, 4 pitchers from guys that he picked up off the waiver wire. This is what I'm going to close with. Frank is at 100 wins. I said a few weeks back that it will take 225 wins to get to the playoffs as the 6th seed minimum. 225 is the number. That means Frank has to get 13 wins every week between now and the end of the season. It's not going to happen. Nobody goes on that, especially a team that hasn't won in 10 weeks. It's not happening.
Right. No, probably not. Before you close, I want to throw in something else, something a little bit unrelated, but it's something that does need to be said because I didn't get a chance to say it last week.
Sure. And
it's a guy that I get to talk to a lot. Chris Levy, who's been on cruise control, he's on this unbelievable streak, and I occasionally get these texts that he gets no luck. There's no luck. And Chris, I got to tell you this, man, because I have the opportunity. You're getting a lot luckier than you think. Sometimes it's better to be lucky and good. You're good and you're lucky. And when you're winning some of these stats the way you are, when you're coming in with a 274 average and a 346 on base percentage, and that's good enough to beat a 219 when your opponent bats 219, 276. You won RBIs 29-27. You won ERA with a 4.09 ERA because your opponent was bad. You've gotten a lot more luck than you think, my friend, and it'll probably continue because you got a nice schedule ahead of you. You got Mike Sherman, but then maybe it starts to get a little bit easier. But, dude, you're getting lucky. So, good luck to you the rest of the way. But that's just something I needed to say, Joe. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely.
The guy's doing a lot better than he thinks.
Absolutely. No, he's doing great, and he's right in the hunt for the playoffs. He's going to be doing just fine. He's definitely going to be a hard out between now and week 22. Finally, a little bit of housekeeping on my end. Wednesday, I fly out of Las Vegas. I land in Toronto, and I will be on vacation with my girlfriend from Wednesday the 26th through the following Wednesday, which is the 3rd. So next week there will not be a show. It's just way too much for me to try to keep up with it while I'm on vacation. And to be brutally honest with you, I deserve a vacation and fuck you guys. We'll be back on the 4th. I'll be back in town on the 3rd. I'll be keeping up with everything from there. I'll catch up on week 14, and there will in fact be a show July the 8th covering week 14. So everybody who's playing this, and it will lightly cover week 13, who won, who lost, how big it was. That's about all that will cover. But week 14 will be when we're back completely. I thank you guys again for watching all of these. It's been an absolute ball doing this. Benny, one more time, I told you I came up with every single trade I've ever made in this league from 2005 through 2019. Pick a year in that area, and I will give you one of the most ridiculous trades.
I'm going to go with the year 2008.
Okay.
Because I thought it's something right in the middle. When the rules were so different, but you're already in there. That would be your 4th year. So
did you look up this? Did you look up that year? Did you look up the trades for that year? Because I only made one trade this year, and it's one of the most legendary and league-changing trades that I was ever a part of. In 2008, I think I had the first overall draft pick, and I picked Albert Pujols. And later on in the draft, I picked up Joe Borowski, who was the closer of Cleveland, along with his backup, Rafael Betancourt. And I knew Borowski was going to end up losing the job. Albert Pujols there was talk of him having an elbow issue and needing to have surgery. So I went out before the season even started, and I said, Albert Pujols is for sale. I need an ace, and I need a first base replacement. And this was the deal that happened. And Benny, you know what trade it is already, don't you?
No, I don't actually.
Okay, so it was Albert Pujols and Joe Borowski for Derek Lee and Aaron Harang. Derek Lee was coming off of the Triple Crown season. Aaron Harang was the ace of Cincinnati. And I believe I finished like 9th that year. And the guy who got Albert Pujols won the league.
Jay Ferraro had Albert Pujols?
I think that's what happened that year.
I know Jay Ferraro won that year, but I don't know. I didn't know that you made that trade with him.
Yeah, well, let's take a look.
Trade partner?
I have to take a look real quick. But it would make sense, right? Like, Jay Ferraro would be a kind of manager who would come at me for Pujols, right? I finished 8th that year.
What's funny is I do believe that Albert Pujols got traded to Jay in 2007 from a guy named, oh God, what the heck was his name? Oh shoot, he's gonna kill me. I think his name was Marco, but
let's see.
I think. But anyway, that was something in 2007 that I remember being a very, very controversial trade, because at that time any trade that Jay was involved with had to be looked at as heavy speculation.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the trade partner it was Chico's bail bonds.
No, that was Michael Sherman.
Mike Sherman, that's right. Sherman finished...
He did not go on to win the championship.
No, he did not. But he did finish 3rd that year, and I finished 8th. So that tells you, yeah. And he actually was a really hard out. Harry Hatchet wounds beat him in the semifinals 10-9. And he crushed the Sandy Vajandis, who was one of the Drobnis brothers.
Right. So, there you go. That's 2008.
Yes.
And how many trades were made in 2007 by you?
2007 was 4.
Okay. Can we talk about one of them? Do we have time to talk about one?
Sure. This is an interesting one. Okay. I traded Orlando Hudson for Carlos Delgado and Nick Punto. How the
heck did that go down? Was Orlando Hudson maybe having a great year? I think that might have been that great Orlando Hudson year.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way it makes sense, right? I ended up finishing 15th in the league this year, so it was pretty bad. Let's see.
It's just a matter of, number one, when did the trade go down? Was it in May or was it late in the season, number one? And number two, who you moved Orlando Hudson to, which team ended up getting. That's another year Jay Ferraro won the championship, 07 and 08.
Okay. The team's name was I'm So Important. It happened on June 20th, so roughly about now, actually.
I'm so important.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if that's Jason Ashby. I'm wondering.
It doesn't have a manager name, nor can I click
Really?
on nor can I click on a profile there. So I don't know. The team itself, I'm so important, ended up finishing 6th. So he made the playoffs with that deal. And I finished second to last.
Now, is amongst those team names a team name called Operation Domination? Is that one of the options there?
No.
Okay, so then that's that guy who probably changed his team name.
Okay.
He was just a guy that kind of came in. He was like a friend of somebody's.
Gotcha.
No one I knew, but yeah, he was rolling for most of the season, and then I think he lost to Jay in the playoffs.
Let's take a look. He got in and, yes, lost to Diehard Fan 46 in the first round.
In the semis, right?
No, it was in the first round, quarterfinals.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yep. All right, guys, that'll probably do it for this week. We're once again under 3 hours, Benny. Great work. Again, I will not be here next week, but let's do this again on the 8th of July, huh?
Had a great time, dude. Thanks for having me, as always.
Always. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great 4th of July. I will see you in 2 weeks.